Hi guys, and welcome back to Getting There the podcast with me, Brogan. Today's episode comes with a special disclaimer. When I first started this podcast, my mission was to speak to anybody that was on a journey and to speak to them about their journey in getting there, wherever there may be, to try and gain some perspective on their lives. When I spoke to my immediate circle about my next guest, I raised a couple of eyebrows, rustled a few feathers, just to say the least. Initially, I'm not going to lie, it put me off a lot, as a lot of people's advice was that I could be tarnished for even giving this person a platform. I then had to remind myself that this podcast is about speaking to people wherever they are headed. And I have spoke to the most diverse group of individuals you could ever imagine. This does not mean that I agree with their beliefs, nor do I represent them. So, without any further ado, guys, this is Tommy Robinson, like you've never seen him before. Mr. Tommy Robinson, hello, and welcome to Getting There the podcast.
How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. Feeling, no, actually, I'm stressed.
Okay, well, I've got to be honest, I'm stressed too, yeah? I'd be lying if I didn't say when I put the feelers out that you were coming on the show that I got a lot of mixed reviews. I mean, there were serious concerns, and I need to be honest and open with that perhaps like being affiliated with someone like you could ruin my platform. I got told, it was a real 50-50 divide whether I should do it or not. I got told by certain people that you were a racist, and I cannot start this interview without going any further. Are you a racist?
No, I'm not. I despise racism. I absolutely despise it. Do you know what? That label that's been thrown against me, I have spoke out against an ideology. I spoke out against Islam. I'm very honest about my views on Islam. If I spoke out against Christianity, would anyone call me a racist? No one would. So why is a special protection given to criticising? You get white Muslims, brown Muslims, every colour Muslim, that follow Islam, all different colours and races. So to criticise, and I actually make it very clear, I'm not against Muslims, okay? I've grown up in Luton. Some of the best people I've met and some of the people I love are Muslim, I'm against the ideology of Islam. Being against an idea and being against a book, the Quran, and being against and criticising the Prophet Muhammad doesn't mean I hate every Muslim. If someone was against Christianity, they'd be celebrated as an atheist. No one would think they hate every Christian, So I separate the people from the idea. And I've always done that. I've always been very clear from that. People like to take little snippets and twist them and manoeuvre them. And exactly what you're talking about now, they made me toxic. I say, do you know what this is? This toxic Tommy.
Yeah.
It's toxic Tommy. They made it so for people to even have a discussion with me, they were scared and they were fearful.
I am.
Yeah, but that's how they've made. And do you know what the problem is with that? There's no freedom of speech. No one's free to discuss things. The more we discuss these problems, the better.
Yeah.
And I've said from day dot, even when I started the English Defence League, I had imams come down and I've said I'll meet anyone and talk to anyone. I've had some fabulous meetings, fabulous discussions. In fact, I've been brought to meetings that the Bishop of Pontefract, Tom Robinson, he's the Bishop of Pontefract. We have had secret meetings when I was leading the English Defence League with some leading Muslim mullahs, the leading Muslim imams, to clear the air, to say, what's the problem? And because I speak quite frankly and tell them what the problem is. Don't try and brush over it. Don't try and pretend that everything's perfect, because it's not.
So, would you say you've got Muslim friends then?
I've got Muslim friends, yeah. I still have Muslim friends now.
Okay, it's quite interesting because you often refer to yourself as the most lied about man in Britain.
Yeah. Do I refer to myself? People refer to that. So I am lied about. I've been smeared. It's a very a great campaign that's been done against me by the media. Now, the problem is, when I was censored and deplatformed, I was speaking openly and honestly about the problems that come from open border mass Islamic immigration. People don't want to have these discussions. The government certainly don't want you to have these discussions because those problems are to do with their failures or their policies. And they've brought in these problems. Now, the difference is when I was censored, people celebrated it. When I was deleted off every single platform, or when I was falsely imprisoned, unlawfully imprisoned, people didn't care. But the censorship has gone beyond me. The censorship is now doctors, since COVID, doctors, nurses, scientists.
Vaccines.
You're not allowed to say these words. Yeah,
I got shadow banned for it.
You got shadow banned.
Yeah.
So people have seen that, and they've been lied about. People who were questioning the legitimacy of a experimental vaccine were then called conspiracy theorists. Yeah, they were labelled. And I remember when the COVID happened, I remember watching the protests against it, and within weeks they were called far right. They were called far right. So the same labelling that I faced, the same unfair labelling, which had power. These sorts of labels, racist, extremist, Islamophobe, ism, all these different things, they had power and they scared the public.
It was enough to put you in a box and keep you away, isn't it?
Put you in a box and put people like yourselves in a position where you're sitting worrying, because I understand it.
Yeah.
So I understand, and I'll explain why I understand. When I started my activism in 2009, which is when I said enough was enough, I had, between me and my wife at the time, 7 properties and 2 successful companies. I used a fake name. Yeah.
This was my next.
I used a fake name and I wore a mask. Do you know why? Because I was scared. Because I didn't want to talk about these issues. Because I knew when you do talk about these issues, you come under violent attack and hostility, and you'll get cancelled and your business will be affected. So I was the same person that everyone is. Everyone who's sitting at home watching the TV, shouting out, everyone who's sitting in the pub telling their friends have had enough and they're fed up. That was me. But I wasn't brave enough. And people say, I'll say I was a coward. And that's why I used a fake name, because I didn't want the repercussions that come from speaking out. Obviously, now I've experienced everyone. I was true. It was correct. I knew what was coming. The attacks, the violence, the terrorist plots, all these things for having an open and honest discussion.
Well, we're going to get to those bits, but I actually think this is a great place to start, because there'll be a lot of people who are listening that don't know where Tommy Robinson came from, where that name came from, because obviously your real name's Stephen.
Yep.
So how shall I
Stephen.
address you today?
So do you know what? I live 2 different lives, all right? I'm Stephen, a father of 3.
Yeah.
And I'm Tommy Robinson, an activist. And when I'm in my house, I'm a father of 3 and I separate the 2. And my children just grow up, know me as dad, yeah? And I never talked about my politics growing up with them. I used to shield them and hide them from everything. But then I answered the name Tommy because Tommy become part of who I am as well. It's a mad situation, but I only used that name. So in 2004, when I was 21 years old, there was the Beslan school massacre. You heard of that?
Yeah, in Czech Republic, yeah?
In Chechnya. Yeah,
Okay.
Chechnya. It was the Chechnyans. And I remember watching that. And I watched it. And for anyone who hasn't watched it, go watch the videos, yeah? So basically, lots of jihadists took over a school in Chechnya. And the parents will picture this, yeah? Because this is coming to Britain. This is going to happen in
Maybe
Britain.
we'll add a link or something and have a look.
It's going to happen in Britain. I'm telling you, yeah. They already caught terrorists with plans for a Jewish school in London. They've already done it. They've already targeted schools in France. They've targeted schools. They've already gone into schools, attempt to kill them. It's going to happen in Europe, yeah. Now, when I watched that, I watched as parents come outside the school, and you can see it, and the mothers drop to their knees. And they drop to their knees as they can hear the killing and the murdering of their pupils, yeah, of their children. And I've never seen anything like it. It's making me feel nervous. I've never seen anything. And I remember watching it, thinking, this isn't one madman that's done this, yeah? There's loads of these men. What could possess someone to go and butcher children in a school? And then I thought about the desperation of the parents outside the school. They can't get into the school. The military are outside, and all these jihadists have got guns and they're butchering all their children. And I thought about it and just thought, and that was my, everyone has a wake-up moment, yeah? Your eyes are opened, and my eyes were opened at that time. So I started looking into what was going on with Islam. And then I saw, just within 2 weeks of that, I saw Muslims in a chicken shop in my hometown of Luton. And his name was Saif al-Islam, which translates as Sword of Islam. His name's actually Mohammed Ishtaq, yeah? He's ended up being he was second in command of Al-Mujahideen, which is a prescribed terrorist organisation. But before this, he wasn't. He was just a radical Muslim in Luton. And I saw him in a chicken shop, and he said that an attack like that would be justified in a British school. And I said, and that was my moment, who is he? Yeah? Because who is he? And we're going to find out who he is, yeah? So then I looked into them, and I saw that they run a group called Al-Mujahideen. And Omar Bakri, Abu Hamza, some of the country's world's most feared terrorists, their head office was in Luton, my hometown, yeah? And I knew kids that I'd gone to school with and I knew Roger. Roger's a big ginger steadhead, yeah? He went to jail for armed robbery, come out of jihadist terrorist, yeah? He's in jail now even for terrorism, I think. But Roger had converted to this group, so I knew lots of people around the surface of this, and I knew what they were about. And I saw where their head office was, and then I started looking at them, and they were recruiting outside Don Miller's bakery every Saturday. So I spoke to all the lads.
When you say recruiting, what does that look like for a passerby?
Passerby, they had big pace tables, massive pace tables. There'd be 15, 20 of them, and they'd be approaching people in the street and talking to them about Islam. They'd be talking to them against the British forces. They'd be
openly. Because there will be a lot of people that will say that's your opinion, that they were recruiting and that. But I'm just wondering, if you were to take me back into that moment, what that looks like on the streets of Luton. And were they preaching?
They were preaching. So remember, the laws that we've now brought in, they weren't being implemented against these groups for years. Remember at Hook Hands outside Finsbury Park Mosque? He was never stopped. Why wasn't he stopped? He wasn't stopped because it actually suited our government for them to be radicalising Muslims to go off and fight against the Soviet. Yeah, we as a country gave a base to many of these terrorist organisations, and we didn't stop them. And they didn't ever think that this hatred may spew over into our own country. Yeah, they were quite happy for them to have bases, and Britain was a safe haven for these jihadist mindsets. Yeah, because it suited our government as long as they were fighting against the Soviets in Afghanistan. And from our country, loads of Muslims were going out to fight in that war, and they weren't seen as terrorists at that time. Yeah, because we were supporting it. And then all of a sudden, all these years later, when America decided to invade unlawfully, and the British, and my views on this war have totally changed as well, an illegal invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, killing 1 million people. So I understand the Muslims' frustration and their anger. I get it, yeah, because I'd be as frustrated.
If someone came to your hometown and did the same.
I'd fight them. So I understand it. But at the time, I didn't, because we were lied to. We were told about weapons of mass destruction. We were told they were going there to make us safe. All these lies, yeah? And all these years later, all these young British men who were sent away to faraway fields to fight against the forces of Sharia. And the whole time, these forces are growing here. So... That was 2004. So I then organised amongst our football lads. I don't deny this, as a young lad.
Hooligan?
Yeah.
Would people have put that label on it?
Yeah. So, yeah. But so people understand. So I grew up in Luton Town. Luton Town's voted as one of the most roughest towns in Britain. Yeah. The level of violence in Luton is abnormal, but you don't think it's abnormal growing up.
Because it's part of it.
It's growing up in it. It's part of everyday life. Things are solved with violence. And Luton's a rough town, and I grew up listening to the stories of older generation who are my uncles, who were all founding members of Luton's football hooligan scene. So I grew up thinking it was great, and my heroes were these older men who were fighting the football. So the first time I could get to go to football as a young kid, I started going to football, and I found my identity and a football culture. And on a Saturday, across Luton, Saturday would be the day that we, as young English lads, would all get together. And we'd get numbers, and we'd go to different towns, and we'd go to football. But then all of a sudden, I looked at this lot and thought, "What? I don't want to go fight Millwall. Yeah, who are these terrorists recruiting in our town centre?" So I organised my first ever protest, and I called it "Ban the Luton Taliban." And I got 200 of us, and then we went down to where they were, and they were moved. They weren't there. They didn't come for that first Saturday. They didn't come. Yeah. But they didn't come, and I stood up in the town centre, and I'd made leaflets and blitzed them around the town. And the front page of our local newspaper run the leaflet. And anyone can do this. Go onto YouTube, put in Tommy Robinson, Oxford Union. You'll see my presentation at Oxford University. And in that presentation, I went to the library and I dug up the newspaper from 2004. My rhetoric has never changed. Yeah, what I say in 2004, remember this is before any terrorist attacks in the UK. This is before jihad. Anyone knew what it was. It's before any grooming scandals because no one knew what that was. And in the leaflet, I say, we don't have a problem with Muslims. Yeah, we have a problem with these radical Muslims who are taking liberties in our town. Yeah, they're pumping heroin throughout our communities, and the police aren't dealing with it the same way they deal with white or black drug dealers. They're getting away with it. Yeah, they're also using drugs as a weapon to get our young girls into prostitution and paedophile rings. This is now what we know as grooming, right? And what I did in this leaflet is I named the main Muslim gang.
Were you allowed to do that? The repercussions for that?
There was repercussions. They come for me. Yeah. So and the repercussions were at the time, which is how I learned very quickly. This is 2004. I didn't use a fake name. I stood in the town centre and said, "Yeah, you lot are taking the piss."
And you had done this based on what research, that you knew this man was guilty?
No, I'd done this based on the fact that I looked at the terrorist group, and basically we wanted to stop them. And they weren't a terrorist group then. They are. So you understand what the influence this group had. So just been imprisoned. Yeah, this week he's getting life. He was one of the lead members of this group. 60% of Muslims who are doing terrorism offences now in prison are ex-members of this group. This group had a massive detrimental effect on our country, and the government done nothing and the police done nothing. And I remember when they were down there, I went the week before, yeah, and I turned up the week before, and there was a mobile police van, and I went up to a mobile police van. I said, "What the fuck? How are these lot doing this? How are these lot doing this?" She said, "Freedom of speech." I said, "Well, we'll see if it's freedom of speech next Saturday. We'll see if it's freedom of speech next Saturday." And in other words, next Saturday, we're coming to the town, yeah? And we'll see, because the point being, We went the next Saturday, they weren't there. I read a statement and I named the Gambino gang. Very original from this Pakistani mob, called themselves after Italians. They can't even find their own identity. So this Pakistani mob who focus on heroin and trafficking and raping kids, I named them. 5 years later, which I show in my Oxford Union presentation, the national newspapers run a story on the 100-strong Muslim Gambino gang of Luton who are linked with the extremists and terrorists. Yeah, they come together. So when I read this out about the extremists and about and the heroin gangs, and what I said is whites and blacks are being religiously and racially targeted in this town, and the police are doing nothing about it. Yeah, why not? And I said this at the time because there'd been 48 attacks in the Muslim area against the Howards, who are a white family, and I show the videos of this. They stopped repairing their windows, yeah? They stopped repairing their windows because they just get broke again. They're 88 years old. They've lived there all their life.
What was the reason for the Howards particularly being targeted then?
They didn't want Muslims in the area. But I make my point in my Oxford Union speech. Do you know who come to help the Howards? Muslims, okay? So I'm not saying, listen...
You're not saying all Muslims are the same?
But there's a problem here, yeah? There's a problem when old age pensioners are coming under attack. Now, one of the other families that come under attack, and the lady passed away recently, was the Palmers. Yeah, now her son is one of the most respected black men in Luton. I grew up admiring the man, yeah? His mum was under attack. And I remember at the time saying to him, and I was only 21, I said, mate, we need hundreds of us in there. They can't get away with this, yeah? And only after 48 attacks and only after all the hooligans come into the town centre at a time did the police tackle this problem, yeah? And then they tackled it. But what I was showing is, look, there's a problem here, all right? And you've got to be able to deal with it. And after I'd done that in 2004, I literally couldn't go out on the town. So if I went out into, and I did go out in the town, but as a group. So I'd only go into Luton Town Centre on a Thursday night if there's 20 or 30 of us. And we'd go out.
And how were you received in Luton Town
with violence, at the time? With violence from the Pakistani gangs. But then fast forward on. So this when I'm 21, and fast forward on. I've then, by the time I'm 25, I've got successful companies. Any clashes we had with the young Muslims at that time, we've sort of gone through them into the point. It got to the point where all right,
yeah.
Right, we're all growing up, and then we've got through it because our problem was the terrorists, but it weren't the terrorists who were coming after us. It was the young gangs, yeah, who were out drinking, doing drugs, partying, gambling. So they're not even that religious. But you can't talk about anything without them wanting to crush you. So then it comes to 2009. There's a soldiers' homecoming parade. My cousins rang me. We've gone down on a Tuesday morning. And I've gone down to Luton Town Centre. And remember, I'm passionate, and part of my identity is being from Luton. And every time our town's mentioned anywhere, on any media or any news, it's to do with terrorism. The 7/7 launch pad, they come and got the bombs. They got on the train in Luton. Yeah, the fertiliser bomb plot, Luton. The Stockholm bomber, Luton, right? The CIA named Luton as a terrorist epicenter for Europe. That's my town, okay? We have to live in that town. So when people read about terrorists, you might think they're far away. No, they're not. They're queuing next to me in Asda, yeah? We have to look at them every day, right? So when they done this, so on this day in 2009, I've gone down on Tuesday morning from Scott Mountridge was 26 years old. He died in a training exercise for the Royal Anglian Regiment. Michael Swain, another kid I know, he lost his legs. Lovely young kid. Lost his legs at 18 years old, he lost his legs in Afghan. So we've gone down to pay our respects. And when I turned up that day, I saw all this group again, the group that we've been against for years. And I saw the police, and I turned up and I started seeing more police. And as I saw more Muslims, I thought, oh my God, they're going to do something. They're going to do something. And the police took them through our town hall. So picture this. This group are now a prescribed terrorist organisation. So they were all jihadists and all terrorists. They opened up our town hall. And they took them through the town hall, because I watched it, yeah? The police escorted all these mob of bearded jihadists. And then I heard commotion. So as I've run around the other side, they've attacked the troops. They're spitting at the soldiers. They've put them, as the soldiers come down the road, they put them right in front of them, yeah? And they spat in soldiers' mums' faces. They were calling them butchers of Basra, killers, baby killers, all these things. So as everyone's run down, we only went there to pay respects. The police turned on us with batons. They didn't turn on them. They didn't even look at them. Yeah. So this.
Why do you think that was?
Because they're scared of them. They never say no to them. They never say no, and that's across the whole country. They have never been told no. So it gets to a point where we're looking and thinking, you don't arrest them. They're raping girls in our town. My cousin was a victim of it.
I'm going to get onto that next.
They're doing all this, and then in 2009. But by the time 2009 comes, I've got 2 successful companies. I've got a plumbing business, probably turn over 300-400 grand a year. I've got 7 properties. Right. I've gone through my clashes as a youngster with their gangs. And I'm at a point, I'm successful now. And my passion was making money. And that's what my passion was. But then I thought, they've just attacked our soldiers. And I said to my cousin, like, I said that day, we got to do something about this. Like, we can't let this go. Yeah, they're taking the piss. And I remember then it went such big news. And then I organised, so I went round, and this is where we have the problem. So then
You're still acting as Stephen at this point.
So I was Stephen in 2004. It gets to 2009.
And now Tommy comes out.
I think, before Tommy,
Was there another name?
There was Wayne King.
Okay, Wayne King. Interesting.
King. They introduced me on the radio, yeah, and it was just humour. So I was just taking a piss. Victoria Derbyshire had me on as the United People of Luton, yeah, and the United People of Luton was me. And I'm sitting there saying, yeah, we've got an executive board, and it's just us, yeah, just the ideal young lads.
You and your football mates.
Me and my mates, yeah, just the young lads. And I used Wayne King. I thought, I see, and she introduced. Now we've got Wayne King from Luton, and we're all sitting there laughing our heads off here because it wasn't that serious. It wasn't what it's become. And then I used the name Mikey. I used multiple names, and then Tommy Robinson. So Tommy Robinson, and I regret this to be honest. Tommy Robinson wrote a football hooligan book called Mig Down, but that's not Tommy Robinson's name. So Tommy Robinson is an older generation of football hooligan from me, yeah. And he wrote a book called Mig Down, and in that book he writes about me, yeah. And he uses my name, Yaxley. Everyone knows me as Yaxley. I didn't think he should have used my name, yeah, because everyone has nicknames. I had a nickname, so he's wrote about lots of violence, and he's used my name, and he gave me a good. He said I was a natural born leader as a youngster. I was so he gave me a good write up. But then I had an uncle who was poisonous, if I'm honest, and that uncle hated Tommy Robinson. So the uncle was always in my ear at the start of this, yeah? And he sort of said, use Tommy's name. So I used his name, and it just stuck. So I thought, see how you like your name being public, yeah? That's how it sort of was at first. You put my name in a book that's in W.H. Smith's without asking me. So that's what it was at the start. And then
you've gone to carry this man's name you never liked for the rest of your life.
Yeah, now I'm him. And I regret it because I actually respect the guy now. I actually respect the guy. He's a top lad. So I used the name, and again, I didn't expect it to go the way it's gone. But then I was wearing a mask, and I was using a different name, and I was and then I become Tommy Robinson. And my mum didn't know I was Tommy Robinson. Yeah? No one knew I was Tommy Robinson.
So your mum's watching all of this in the press. Like, look at these people down in the town.
I'm doing interviews. We're meeting up. We're all wearing masks and balaclavas.
Because that's quite intimidating.
Yeah, but the reason being, and I'll explain it. So 2009, I organised our first protest, and against what they'd done to our soldiers, yeah? And I go around and I make leaflets, and it had a picture of the 14 Royal Anglians. It had a picture of everyone who's died for the Royal Anglians. It said heroes. And it had a picture of all these terrorists, and it said scum. And I went to hand them in. I remember going into Crawley Green Social Club. I played football for them growing up. And I went walking in, I said, I'm just handing these out. And the bloke said, I need to see what you're handing out. And I said, well, there you go. He goes, you can't hand them out in here. I said, well, I am going to hand them out in here. So if we want to roll around on the floor, we can roll around on the floor. I'm handing them out. These fuckers have just took the piss, yeah, against our troops. Sorry for my language. They've just took liberties. I'm handing them out in here. So I literally had free square ups in the pubs, handing these leaflets out. And I was thinking, they're terrorists. They've attacked our soldiers. We're organising a day against it. So then we turned up for our first day against it. And because I've grown up in Luton, I knew how it's going to go. I paid £450. I contacted a professional wedding photographer, videographer. I said, can you come and spend the day with us and video everything, yeah? He must have been the maddest day he's ever had. So he turns up, and then I said, video everything. Now, the police come up to us in the street, take your shoes off, yeah? Put their hands in our pockets. And as they're doing this, I said, you didn't do this to them. Yeah? I was there when they attacked our troops. You didn't put your hands on them. So why are you putting your hands on us? Why have I got to tell you my name? Yeah, they didn't have to tell you your name. You're taking our shoes off. I said, you're taking the piss. Yeah.
What was their response to that?
Section 60. They believe there's going to be trouble. Well, what about this lot? These are terrorists. These are terrorists. Yeah. You didn't stop them. You didn't put your hands on them. And then when we got to the town centre, there's probably a few hundred of us. Yeah. Again, a few hundred, probably 300, 400. We've got into the town centre, and Luton Town Centre, the war memorial that they were at was just down the end. So we want to get there. The police formed a cordon and then got on horses. No, you're not going. So it's like, well, you let them get there. So that's our war memorial. Yeah, we're here to show respect for our armed forces. Get out of the way. And then it turned into clashes with the police. And they come past on a horse, and I've got a mate, little Isaac, black lad. And the banners straight away, National Front go to hell. Right, we made it clear where we stand, because from Luton, so people understand the demographics of Luton. There's never been racial tensions in Luton, right? Whites and blacks are like this. Yeah, we get on great. Okay, there's no problems. Yeah, the town's divided by religion. That's it. Okay, so we hate Nazis, don't like racism, all the lads. And on that first demonstration, I sat down, And some lad come in, big white lad, and he come in, he goes, don't worry, 20 National Front just got off the train station. I said, wicked, mate, you know when they get here? I said, yeah. I said, we're going to smash their fucking heads in. He went, what? I said, look around the pub, because our lads ain't all white, yeah? These are our lads. I said, you're in Luton. And Luton's always had a reputation for that, as our football hooligan scene is very diverse, yeah? So there is no white supremacy, Nazism. I've never seen it, never heard of it growing up in Luton. So they got run out of town, the National Front did that day, but then the police come and they smashed everyone. They basically smashed everyone. And then they kettled us for 3 hours. My auntie had to urinate in the street. She had to urinate in the street. And when that happened, I said, you would not make Muslim women urinate in the street. Yeah? So that then, at that start of it, it become more about being treated equally and police abuse of power against our community, which has now become part of British vocabulary, two-tier policing. But everyone now knows it because you've seen they let Hamas take over the capital city every week, yeah, and they crush everyone else. But I'd seen that my whole life. So we bought the video cameraman, we recorded it all, and then I got the video and I made it. And you can look at this now. It's under Luton protest on YouTube, and it's called the United People of Luton. And you'll see hundreds of us come out. They crushed us, and then what they did after that, we didn't get to the war memorial. They didn't let us get there, yeah? So after that, when I say, if you could have lit a match in Luton and the town would have blown up, yeah?
The tension.
Everyone was so raging, yeah? So then after that, I said, well, no. And do you know what they done then? They raided 13 houses, 14 houses. One of them was my mum's. And they went there, and I went at home, so I didn't get arrested. But then they arrested all the others, and they basically picked one lad from each estate, main lad, yeah? And they come and nicked him because it puts fear into everyone else.
Yeah.
And then our bail conditions were not to enter Luton Town Centre 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 months, yeah? So they prohibited any of the influential lads coming in the town, yeah? Because they thought, we need rid of this problem. Yeah. Keep them out. But what we'd done prior to this, I'd got 3,500 people to sign a petition, and I'd contacted the council. No one would talk to us. No one would talk to us. People say, well, you're all on the streets, running through the streets. No one would talk to us, yeah? And what the petition said is, in Luton, we have young kids who cause trouble together at the shops. You give them an antisocial behaviour order, an ASBO, and it prevents those two kids hanging around together. Now, what we asked with our petition was that this group are given ASBOs from entering our town. So when my mum goes shopping, or our nans, or our daughters, or our sisters, or anything, they don't have to pass these jihadists after what they've just done to our soldiers. Yeah, they don't have to. It stops the group causing mayhem in our town, rather than come down on them. They arrested us before they'd arrested any of them. So then the next demonstrations 2 weeks later, when we turned up at a pub, and this was very different. The mood of this was different. I rang the police anonymously and basically said, stay out of the way. I'm telling you, the town's going to burn. Yeah, no one's having it. Lads were put in vehicles with weapons and everything. Yeah, and we were telling them not to. Said, look, calm it, because the town was ready to blow up.
Sounds like something out of a film.
There was 26 fire bombings in Luton
in one day.
No, at that time, my house got done. At that time, Muslims were doing everything. So when it was going, and then the terrorists who attacked our soldiers, their houses were getting done. So things were just going off. And then the imams, this was all going mental, yeah. And then it's our second demonstration. And on the second demonstration, I said to the police, let us get to the war memorial. Yeah, you're not stopping us. And then that day, I'd say about 700 lads turned up. And when we met up in the morning, I gave everyone balaclavas. And the reason being, so people say, yeah, it was a bad image. But the reason being, those 13 lads that weren't allowed in the town centre wanted to be there. But
they felt they weren't able to
be there. We weren't able to because we had bail conditions. I was wanted, right? And I thought, you're not stopping me going to the war memorial on this day. So then we went through the town, and you can watch this as what you can. This went worldwide, yeah, because the pictures were of all lads with balaclavas, hundreds of us.
Which is intimidating.
Of course it is, yeah. But so are terrorists on our streets every week.
Looking back, do you wish you hadn't worn a mask?
Looking back, I wish that our government took seriously the threat of jihad and these terrorist groups. I wish that it didn't take the English Defence League forming and chasing these terrorists around the country for them to become a prescribed terrorist organisation. I wish that I could have continued just doing the job that I was doing and living the normal life, and my life could be different. I wish all those things. But that our government are cowards. They pandered to them. They're weak. Our police force are a joke and don't deal with them. So they allow them to run out of control. And the only option we had in Luton was, it's time to stand up. And we stood up locally in Luton. And I remember the imam, their main extremist imams called us on a meeting. And we went down to the meeting and they said, we've all got to live here. I said, we know. But we're not. You ain't bullying us, because that's what's been going on. You're bullying us. If you jump out,
what did you want right at that time? You wanted the jihadists out of the town.
Wanted them gone. Wanted them gone. Wanted the fact. What we found out is, On the day that they attacked our soldiers, which was a group of about 60 or 80 of them, all Luton Muslims, we found out that the week before they'd leafleted every mosque in Luton. So all the mosques knew, all the Muslim community knew they were going to attack our soldiers. We found out that 300 of them were stopped coming off the motorway. Now look at what they've done with 60 to 80. If there'd have been 500 of them, they were coming for war with our soldiers. Yeah. Now the point is, which we said at the time, what's next? A soldier's funeral. Well, we know what's next. It led to them burning poppies. It led to them beheading Lee Rigby. That's what it led to, yeah? The same group. Michael Adebolajo, who beheaded Lee Rigby, I made a video about him two years before. We showed who he was 2 years before, yeah? They done nothing. So the point is, these terrorists are walking our streets. In Turnham, we're at war, yeah? And they're targeting us. In Turnham, why are we waiting for them to do any crimes? Why are we waiting for them to blow stuff up? Many of them, even the Westminster Bridge attack, he was here as an illegal immigrant. He come in on a watch list from Italy. So you knew he was a terrorist. You let him into the country and you just monitored him until he went and stabbed people down at Borough Market. It's insane. So at the time, remember, this was 2009. So people weren't ready to listen to this. Yeah, we saw it. I knew how they think. I'd researched it, and then we formed the English Defence. So from that first demonstration, I cut the video, went on all the different football messaging boards, basically, because we were young football lads, and said, look, the lads in Luton have stood up. It's time to stand up. Like they're taking the piss. Our girls are being raped. All this is going on, and then the English, and then after that we went to Birmingham, and then it become.
Europe's biggest protest movement Europe's ever seen.
Yeah, that's what. And remember, for me, and I'll speak honestly, I was 25 years old. Yeah, I was working on the building site. I was wheeling and dealing. And within 6 months, I was the leader, without any political knowledge, because I didn't know. I didn't even care about politics. Now I'm leading a street protest movement that's just gone like that, and it wasn't planned. Yeah, so I didn't plan it. So nothing was planned. I just went, if I think this is right, we're doing it. What city are we going to next? This one, yeah? We didn't have anything planned, and I didn't understand how it all worked. I knew that when I talk about Islam, because I've grown up in Luton, you can't talk about it. I knew that when I talk about Islam, people are going to want to hurt you. So I expected that. What I underestimated was the state interference. And I say that... In the first 6 months, my doors were kicked off 3 times. I had armed police come in with machine guns. My pregnant wife, 6 months, she was pregnant of 6 months. They nicked her. They put her through 3 6-hour interviews. The level of interference and the state involvement in order to crush us. Now, it should have crushed us with their tactics, but and each time they'd done it, like it ain't going to work with me.
If you think that you're seeing and talking sense, why do you not think the police were following the evidence that you were putting in front of them, or your point of view? If you're saying, that I think this is right.
Because the police would rather than deal with the problem's that big, yeah? What we know, and this is a fact, yeah? What we know is that rape gangs have been allowed to rape in towns and cities across the country. Now, we had a demonstration planned in Yorkshire. I've gone to Luton Airport, and we're flying to Edinburgh, and we're setting up the Scottish Defence League. So bearing in mind, the English Defence League's going like a fire across the country, yeah? Divisions are setting up in every town, like bang. It was mental, yeah? It was just spread. And the reason why is everyone had been thinking the same. And all the problems I'd seen in Luton, I didn't realise are happening in every town. So when someone went, it weren't that we were anything special. When someone started talking about it, it was just boom, people were attracted to it. And then we're going to Scotland, and I get to Luton Airport, and I'm arrested by Special Branch at Luton Airport. And I'm taken in, and when they nick me, and I think I'm being set up, and when they nick me on a criminal damage charge. And you see that little metal thing on that door?
Yeah.
Yeah? They nicked me because they said, and they know I stayed in a hotel in Leeds, yeah? And they know I stayed in a hotel in Leeds because they'd followed me from a demonstration in Blackpool. The police had followed us there. They said there was £30 damage on one of those doors, on one of them, when I was in the hotel. So I got arrested for it. And then, to prove that I stayed in the hotel, they had a warrant to access my mum's house and where my kids are. Yeah, they come with guns. Yeah, they went to 2 houses. They took every bit of paperwork and they seized every electrical device. Yeah, for £30 criminal damage. And as this is going on, I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? Yeah. Then it comes to bailing me, and when they give me my bail conditions. So remember, we were setting up the Scottish Defence League. So by nicking me on this day, they stopped that.
Yeah.
We had a date organised to protest about grooming gangs in Yorkshire. The police who come down to arrest me were Yorkshire police. Yeah, they were just silencing it. because grooming wasn't out there yet. They were still in cover-up mode. When they bailed me, my bail date to answer bail at Luton Police Station was the same date and time that I was due to be talking at an event in Leeds. My bail conditions were not to contact the English Defence League, not to send an email, not to go on social media. They were my bail conditions. So it's like, what the hell has this got to do with £30 criminal damage? Yeah? So I put in a complaint through the IPCC, and again, you can find this speech. I gave a speech at York called Free Speech, and I actually go through and I put a complaint in against the police. And in that complaint, I said, I believe, because they just dropped it all after a couple of months. So once they had me on bail, once the date went past, boom, they dropped the case. So I said, and it turns out the manager of the hotel said I didn't cause any problem in the statements. Yes, so they knew that before they come and nick me. So I said, I believe you arrested me. It's politically motivated. You arrest me on this date to prevent me talking at the Scottish Defence, forming the Scottish Defence League. My bail date was to prevent me talking about grooming gangs in Yorkshire, and my bail conditions were to prevent my political activism. They just accepted it all. They said, yeah, it is, and we're going to put our police officers on training courses. And remember, this is before anyone knew what grooming was. So we were going into cities, and we were going. We've got videos of us in Telford in 2010. The Telford case came about in 2014. In 2010, we're marching through Telford saying Muslim rapists off our streets. We're holding banners saying our daughters are not halal meat. Yeah? So we're talking about the issues. I remember I went on Jeremy Paxman and I said our daughters are being raped in every town and city. Because when I formed the English Defence League, I started going to all the other towns and cities, meeting mums, sisters, daughters, all of them, and hearing the horrific stories. I sat with one family I'll give you two stories. A father from Blackpool, and I sat down with him. They took his daughter, yeah? So she's 13, 14.
Yeah.
The father and the son, Muslims, are raping his daughter, but they'd ring him as they rape her. They'd ring him. So he has to sit there and listen on the phone whilst his daughter's being raped. Yeah?
So surely this guy's ringing the police.
The police don't know. Yeah, but at this time, so people thought we were making all this up, yeah? But that dad rang me 5 years later. He said, Tommy, she's home. She's home. 2 kids, she's home. I was like, it's mental, man. So that's his daughter. That's his daughter. They're making him listen to him rape his daughter. And people would think we're making this up, yeah? In 2014, 15, I'm in jail and I see the bang on the news and it's the Rotherham Report. And the Rotherham Report's breaking. And in the Rotherham Report, I'll go through some of the stories. There's a girl, I know her. I met her family, yeah? 200 times her dad rang 999. 200 times.
200 times.
There's 200 registered calls of 999 from that father, because people always ask where were the family. He was there. That's a normal father. He's not, these gangs are machete wielding, gun dealing, drug dealing. They're mafias. Yeah,
and you're telling me these girls are held against their will?
Held against their will and raped. And prostituted and hooked on drugs, yeah? But no one would believe us. So, as I said, I sat on Jeremy Paxman and it hasn't aged well for him. Watch that interview, yeah? I sat on there and I said, no, our daughter's being raped. And he said, do you expect us to believe that Muslims are coming outside schools? I said, yeah, I do expect you to believe. That's exactly what they're doing. And when the report came out, the government report of Rotherham, what we found out is that 2 fathers went to get their 13-year-old daughters back, and they're in a house being raped, yeah, by about 6, 7 men. When the fathers went there to get their daughters back, they go there to get their daughters back, the police arrested the dads. The police turned up and nicked the dads.
On what?
Trespassing. At the house aggressively, trying to get their kids back. Did they
release the girls?
No, they left the girls. And this is in a government report. This isn't Tommy Robinson. Yeah? This is in a government report. Another young girl who was 12 was in a derelict house being raped by 5 men. The police turned up, they arrested the girl for drunken disorderly. The men literally were given free rein to rape. And the reason why, and it's not, again, this isn't Tommy Robinson's opinion. The reason why in that Rotherham report is because the police were scared of being deemed racist, because all the men committing the crimes were Muslim, Pakistani, and all the girls were white. So our daughters were literally handed over to them. And some of the crimes that have gone on, and remember, so all these things that we'd warned about and we were talking about, where people said we were fear-mongering or we were lying, we were exaggerating, then there's this big report. And I'm watching this report and I'm like, it's out there now. Yeah, this is it. The heads have got to start rolling. No heads have rolled. In the case in Manchester, there's a young girl, she was 15 years old. There was a 50-year-old Muslim and he was allowed into she was in social services, so he was allowed into the house, yeah? She died of a heroin overdose. He injected her with heroin. They get them all hooked on heroin, then the girls have to do whatever they want, yeah? They put them out to 100 men. Some of these houses, men are queuing up the stairs, going in one after the other, raping the girls. I've met these girls. I've done a 5-part series on them.
And is there a commonality between these girls as to why these girls were targeted?
No,
like single-parent households?
Yeah, there is.
Vulnerable?
Lots of them are vulnerable. Lots of them are young. Lots of them are in care homes, but not all of them. Some of them are great girls from great families. Doesn't matter. They get in the girl's mind, and this is a process. So there was a film called Loverboy, and it was made by the Dutch government, And it was about the Moroccan men in Holland, because it's the same problem. The Moroccan men in Holland would, and it's called Loverboy because the youngsters get the girls and they fall in love with them, yeah? And then they pass them on to the old ones. But what they do is they hook them on drugs. So they give them alcohol, give them drugs. Once they're hooked on drugs, they're reliant on the gangs.
Yeah.
And then they pass them round. Now, that educational film called Loverboy, they tried to show that in British schools in 2007. And it was refused because racism.
Yeah.
This is a film that would have prevented the rape of... Because the warning thing... So educating mothers and young girls on what these groups do and to stay away from these men and don't fall in love with them because they're preying on you, yeah? There's a certain process. And it's a long... They might not rape them for the first 6 months. They're just nice to them. And as they're being nice to them and taking them out in their sports cars and giving them alcohol, giving them cigarettes, giving them takeaways from their businesses, because they use their taxis and they use their businesses as part of this mafia. Yeah? As they're doing that, they're getting the girl, and then they turn the girls gradually against their mum and dad. They say, your mum and dad think you're a little girl, they're treating you like a little girl, and they cause distrust between the parents. And the worst thing the parents can do, ever, is then fall out with the child, right? Because this is a process that they're purposely doing this. Yeah. Now, to think this is the darkest stain on British history there will ever be. We've allowed people to come into our country, kidnap and rape and abuse and torture young girls, and no one's done nothing. Do you know right now? So a Muslim got kicked in the head yesterday in Manchester Airport, and there's 1,000 of them outside Rochdale Police Station. 1,400 children were raped in Rotherham. Rochdale was one of the biggest grooming scandals in our country's history. In Rochdale, the same town, no one done nothing. The British have done nothing.
There'll be a lot of people listening to this saying there was white Christian or British grooming gangs before the Muslim gang entered.
Yes, there are. So the majority of paedophiles in our country are white. Yeah.
Yeah.
The majority of lone predatory individuals, literally 95% of them are white. There's a reason, because we're a 90% white country, pretty much. We were. Yeah. This specific crime, Muslim men make up 2.5% of the UK. Then 90% of the convictions of this crime are Muslim men. 30% are called Mohammed. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying every Muslim, because some of the Muslims I grew up with would hate these men. Yeah. Some of them would find it disgusting. But there's a massive overrepresentation. There's a massive problem that we're not even allowed to talk about. Now the Overton window shifted, and when these things, we were crushed when we started the English Defence League, crushed by the authorities, crushed by the police. Because, do you know why? Because they've all got dirty hands. Every police force know this has gone on. They've all let it happen. And they've all been... When people say how powerful, you know what you just said at the start of this interview, you're worried about having this interview. Yeah? That's the power of political correctness. That's how powerful it is. It gets people scared. Now, how powerful is it? Well, it stopped our police even doing their job. It stopped the police even helping kids from being raped. They let children get kidnapped. Not just the police. Every institution, social services, the care homes, the men used to come in and pick the kids up and take them out in their cars. And they're letting them because everyone's too scared. I don't want to be called a racist. Who cares if you're called a racist? You can tattoo racist on my forehead if it stops the kids being raped. I don't care about you calling me a racist. That's the biggest thing we're worried about here. You're going to be branded a name. And I understand why people are worried, because like this poor police officer in Manchester, he's going to lose his job. He's going to lose everything. He's going to lose his everything's going to be affected. So I understand it. But these gangs have been targeting in every single town and city. And the thing is, you're not even allowed to ask why. Now, originally these gangs were called Asian. They were called Asian grooming gangs. So, well, they're not Asian grooming gangs. Yeah? They're Muslim grooming gangs. So let's get it right. And I spent time with... I travelled around the country. There's a group called Sikh Awareness Society, yeah? And in 2011, we were running the English Defence League, and we had a good relationship with the Sikh community. The Sikhs, I'll give you 2 examples again. There were Sikhs coming under racial attack by young white kids on a council estate in Essex. And when these problems happened, the Sikhs would ring us and say, can you come down? Yeah. So I remember I went down to this council estate. It's on a Friday night. It's about 40, 50 kids over there. And I went over and said, what's going on with the school over here? They goes, oh, they're terrorists. They're fucking terrorists. They're this. I said, they're not terrorists, yeah, at all. And the education in the difference between the Sikh community, yeah, and there's no Sikh terrorists. They're the best integrated migrant community we have in this country. Yeah. They're assimilated. They're proud to be British. Yeah. And they've been massive victims of these rape gangs. Now, the Sikh community formed a gang in the 70s called Sula Punjab, SP, to try and stop their daughters being taken. And when I went through doing my research, I've done a presentation, I found news articles from the 70s or 80s where Sikhs are standing there talking, saying, the Muslims are coming to the school and picking our daughters up. This is how long this has been going on.
But there'll be a lot of people listening to this and thinking that you're using these stories or headlines to push the narrative of your dislike for the Quran or potentially a Muslim community? And what would you say about that?
I'd say that I'm pushing this because I want to see the protection of young girls. I don't really care what people say. I don't care what people say anymore. I don't care. And in fact, early on, people said these things. Everything I've said has been proven right. Everything. Right?
Well, it was quite interesting because when you did Rape Britain, you actually went and exposed a white girl for lying against these Muslim men.
So I done the Rape of Britain, which was a 5-part series.
So for people who haven't watched it, can you just give us a brief outline of what that looks like?
So the Rape of Britain, I picked Telford. And the reason I picked Telford, and I thought, do you know what? They put me in prison in 2017 or 18 for reporting outside a court case in Leeds. And they put me there because they don't want, I feel, because they don't want these discussions to be had.
And was this the incident where you asked a convicted paedophile how he felt about his sentence?
Yeah, I said, how'd you feel about your verdict? As he walked into court, I got 13 months in jail within 2 hours.
For calling him distress and anxiety, am I right in that?
That's what they used as justification when they put me back in jail the second time. They said that my presence there caused him alarm and distress. It's like, he's a paedophile.
And warranted you having 13 months in prison after being convicted of...
30, so the first time they said I risked jeopardising the trial, yeah? That's what they told the British public. I just asked him, how'd you feel about your verdict? People ask me that every time I walk into court. So I just had, how'd you feel about your verdict? The judge summons me in. Within 2 hours, I was in prison for 13 months. On appeal, after 11 weeks, they found out that everything the judge done was unlawful and I was released from prison, yeah? And the media had run with this story that I jeopardised the trial. Well, two of the Muslims who, I done an hour live stream outside the court. So I got the court papers, yeah? And I got the transcripts. And the Muslims tried arguing that what I said jeopardised the trial. That same judge that gave me 13 months, the next day, in his wording, said, I've watched the entirety of Tommy Robinson's video. Nothing he said could have jeopardised his trial. It was just all a lie, yeah? I didn't say anything. I didn't presume their guilt. I said they're innocent until proven guilty. I didn't give any knowledge. I knew everything about those gangs. I only repeated what was already in the public domain. Yeah, because I knew the law. Yeah, a judge has no power to put a reporting restriction over information that's already in the public domain. So they lied to the public about why I was in jail. I get out, then I'm out. Then they want to redo me. They redo me after a year, yeah? They redo me and take me back to the Old Bailey. Now, this time, they can't argue anymore that I jeopardised the trial. So they changed it. And they said that I caused alarm and distress to the defendants and they should feel comfortable walking into court. And they used that and then they give me another 10 months.
Did they try and get you to pay him out or anything?
No, they give me another 10 months jail. So for the second time.
For that one comment?
That one comment. Another 10 months. Because what happened
And how do you feel about that? And how were you feeling about that in that moment? Were you angry?
Of course. I felt astonished that they could get away with it and that the media, no one would challenge it. Even Nigel Farage. When they put me to jail, I'm sat in jail and I see it on the news and they're saying that I pled guilty. Yeah, I think I didn't plead guilty. What are you talking about? I never pleaded guilty. I didn't even get asked to plead guilty. So all these lies are going on and it would take a journalist 10 minutes to go get the transcripts and see what happens, yeah? And I thought, how are you all lying? Even Nigel Farage justified that I should be in jail, yeah? Well, after 11 weeks, it got proven that I shouldn't have been in jail. And it was all bullshit. And when I come out of jail, I'd obviously lost 30 pounds. I didn't look well. I was in a bad place. They moved me from a low Muslim population to the highest Muslim population. I come out of jail and then they can't lose face. It looked terrible for them. So then they had to send me back. So what they've done is they offered me a deal. When I'm going back to court, they said, plead guilty and you can go home. So I'm not, because if I plead guilty, I accept that I've done something wrong. I said, I've done nothing wrong. I didn't break any laws. I didn't break any guidelines.
Were your family trying to get you to go guilty?
Yeah, all of them did. Yeah, well, my kids certainly did.
Think about
just
it.
Just say sorry. Yeah, just say sorry.
Did you think about it?
No, I can't say sorry. No, I said to my son, and I tried getting my son to justify to me, probably to give myself, I said, I just can't do it. I said, how can I say sorry when I'm not sorry, A? And if they want to send me back to jail, more people look at this issue than ever before. So sort of for my cause, what they done that day, and if you look at it, as I'm getting handcuffed in the back of the van outside Leeds Crown Court, I'll just say millions are going to watch this video. Millions, yeah? Great. I want to bring attention to the issue of grooming. What I done in that hour-long live stream was I educated on the dangers, the threats, the warnings, and how to understand what they're doing, yeah? And how they operate. So 5 million people watched that video that weekend. I couldn't ask for more. For my cause. Now, and at the same time as this, the Sikh Awareness Society have been warning through the Sikh community. And up until that Rotherham report, they were seen as extremists as well, yeah? They weren't taken seriously. After the Rotherham report, the Sikhs realised, Jesus, they're doing this in every town and city. Now, the Sikh Awareness Society, I travel round to their Gurdwaras and their temples and Hindu temples, and I've watched what they do. And they educate, so they've got hundreds of women and daughters, and they go through and say, this is how they operate, this is what they do. and this is what they're doing, yeah. And they tell them how to stop it, and they've moved girls out of the UK.
Am I not right saying this script, if you like, or booklet that you've then created would be applicable to any grooming gang?
Yeah. So the grooming I made 5 documentaries. And what I did is I went to Telford, and the reason I went to Telford...
This is the Rape Britain
This is the
one,
Rape
yeah?
Britain. The reason I went to Telford, it has a 1.7% Muslim population. There's only 3,500 Muslims there. Yeah?
Okay.
So I thought, I'll really get into this, yeah? I can find out everything. And I met 18 girls, 12 to 18 girls, and I documented everything. So I sat down with these girls, and I got to know them and know their families. We spent 12 months, 18 months on this. None of the Muslims knew what we're doing, yeah? So we're in there, and I'll take the girls, and I'll do a 6-hour interview, and then I'll do another 4-hour interview, and then I'll go back and I'll grill them on this and grill them on that. And I'll build a database. And we got 254 names out of all the girls. So, and then what we've done is we've done a database, and when the girls are named by 3, when the men are named by 3 girls that don't know each other.
And have not spoken.
Yeah.
So they're independent interviews,
witnesses.
Just so people can get an idea of this.
Then I'd go after the men. Yeah, because I think this isn't a disgruntled girl or ex-girlfriend making it up.
Yeah.
There's multiple girls, and when I go after the men, I'd go into their businesses and ask them, why would 3 girls tell me this? Yeah? Why would... And when we looked at Telford, so in Telford, the police investigation identified 1,000 victims, yeah? The police investigation did into the grooming scandal. 5 of those victims are dead, okay? 5 of them are dead. They burned a whole family alive, yeah? So I sat down with one dad. He's got a picture of his 4 daughters there. He said they killed her, they raped her, and they're trying to rape her. It's like... What is going on in our country? How is this allowed to happen? This is just in Telford. So when I'm in Telford and I make it into a 5-part series now, and I go after the gangs. Now, when I started going after the gangs, they come and blew my blew my car up. They went to my mum's. Police done nothing. Please, they targeted all the girls.
When they blow up your mum's house, you're not thinking, oh, maybe that I should just leave this now.
No. So my mum's neighbour took a video, and the video. She videoed a car of Asian lads, Muslim lads, and they're videoing my mum's house. And then so my mum comes, showed me the video. So I got the number plate. I found out where the car was registered. It was Dudley. And I went to the house the next day, and I knocked on the door. And I knocked with about 20 lads. I knocked on the door and said, "Where's Imran? Yeah, where is he?" And the nephew answered. He goes, "It was Ramadan." And he goes, "What the fuck are you doing here, Tommy?" I said, "I'll tell you what I'm doing here. A car registered here went to my mum's house yesterday, 2 hours drive." And I looked on Imran's Facebook, yeah, and he was friends with 2 of the men we were investigating for rape in Telford. Yeah? Right. So I said, I know why he's here. Get him here, yeah. And the family were all there. I said, you've got nothing to worry about. I'll be honest. I said, you've got nothing to worry about. I want him to come outside and sort it out with me. I said, they're all here. The lads are here because they'd never fight fair, and I'm going to record it. I'm going to record it to let them know you're not bullying us. Or you're not coming. You might be you're not dealing with 13-year-old girls. You're used to intimidating 13-year-old girls. And they went to the families' houses. You can watch this on our episodes. They go and smash all the families' houses up. They blow up the cars. Yeah, so they don't know which girls were talking to us and giving us information. So they're trying to stop the girls talking to us. But what they don't realise is I've already done my investigation. I've got you all banged to rights. Yeah, I'm coming for your businesses. I'm coming into your businesses, and I'm going to let the world know who you are. And there's a reason, you know, when you and my purpose for doing these films, and you should watch them. Yeah, the purpose of doing these films is when you read a newspaper article and you read 1,400 victims. Yeah, you're not feeling it. Yeah, you all need to see the mum and dad.
Yeah,
you need to see that girl. And one girl, and I'll get onto the innocent Muslim lads, but one girl, she put on Facebook saying, one of the Telford rapists was being released. She put on Facebook saying, I'm going to be one of the first people to kill one of these bastards. Where are the English men? So I paid a private investigator. I tracked her down to a hostel in London. I knocked on the door. Some black lad answered, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here to see, blah, blah, blah. Can you ask her to come out and talk to me? She come out. She hated me. And watch it on the documentary. She didn't like me. She didn't like my politics. Yeah, mum and dad were hippies, and I just said, "Give me 2 hours of your time. Just come out and talk in the car with me." Yeah, and she got in the car and I said, "Look, I've read your post on Facebook.
Yeah.
Are you a survivor?" She said, "Yeah, I am. They fucking raped me. They ruined my life. They done this. They done that." I said, "All right." I said, "Help me bring them down. Help me ruin them." Yeah, all these girls are looking after their shoulders. 20 years later, these lads are driving sports cars and running businesses. They don't give a shit. They're running the town. Yeah. They're running everything. Yeah, and then I go up to Manchester. And I'm working on this documentary, and I've got all these men all over the table, and we're researching it all. And I get a message off this girl, and it's the most horrifying 10-minute conversation you'll hear, I think. And it's great for people to hear it, because she was raped 12, 15, 13 years ago. Yeah. And here she is. She messages saying, "Tommy, if you want any more information, you've got an hour, and then you won't be able to ask me anything else." So I ring her up and I say, "What's going on?" She said, "I'm in Telford." And bearing in mind, she said she's going to kill him.
Yeah.
So I think you've drove 3 hours. I said, what are you doing in Telford? She said, I'm ending it, Tommy. I think she's going to kill him. And she said, I'm outside his house. And then I'm like, oh, mate. And listen to the whole 10-minute conversation, because we end up pulling her back from it, doing it. And then she breaks down and says, I'm just going to kill myself.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
And I'm doing it outside his house because no one can say it wasn't to do with him. Yeah. I've never had justice for these men. Yeah. And she's crying her eyes out and she says, Tommy, I've been tortured every day. Rape is torture. So and then we do interviews with her after. And then in the end, she comes to meet us. I say, come and meet us. Your mum and dad, they win if you do this. Yeah. This is the fallout. These girls aren't just raped. After rape, their lives spiral into drug addiction. They can't have relationships. She said, every time I get a new relationship and have sex, I have flashbacks of them.
Yeah.
I can't have sex. I can't have an enjoyable sexual relationship with a male because I have flashbacks of all the Muslim men raping me. So the knock-on effect that's happening to these girls all these years on, people need to understand. We have allowed this. We as a country have allowed this, and no one even done anything. There should have been a revolution over what's happened.
So with your independent investigation and you find 254 men,
Yeah.
do you hand that over to the police? Because it seems like you're more of a civilian policeman. So how does that work? And I imagine that somewhere along the lines that people would say, well, how accurate is your evidence or what not?
We watch the documentary. We done a proper investigation, and when we done the proper investigation, there's recordings. I send someone to meet with the police, and the police officer says, under no circumstances are we sitting down with Tommy Robinson. Because what I said is, I've got a dossier of information here.
Yeah.
Your job is to take that information. They refused. So then I video myself going to the Serious Organised Crime Agency. Yeah. I'll go there and say, what is going on? Yeah.
And what was happened?
I'm telling you, I've got evidence of what they're doing. Yeah. And I had evidence. Yeah. I've got recorded. I ended up getting, how do I say this? When I say, and I never thought about this. Yeah. I only think of our girls, right, that have been victims to these gangs. I don't think of the Muslim girls. And when I started all this, a young girl who grew up with me in Luton, who ended up wearing a full niqab, she ended up going to prison for heroin dealing because her partner was a big heroin dealer, Muslim. Yeah. When it happened to Lee Rigby, she rang me up crying, saying, I need to speak out. I need to speak out. I said, what? She said, you don't understand. In all the houses there, yeah, this is in the Muslim community. She said, they've got wives that are getting battered. Yeah, they haven't even got their passports. They can't even speak English, Tommy. She said, Yaks, I was in one room, he's in the other room, he'd batter him, he'd batter me. All this is going on. And when I started my investigations to Telford, their ex-wives were contacting me. Muslim girls were contacting me. One of them's raping his own daughter. Yeah, they can't get away from them. So I've never thought of that. Yeah, I never thought of that. I always talk about the rape that they're doing to our community. But in it, like that girl, I won't name her. Yeah, she ended up leaving England. She's ended up going to prison for heroin dealing was the best thing that could happen to her. She's gone on to have a great life. She's clean. She's not in with them anymore. She's free. Yeah, she doesn't live in the UK anymore. But she told me, in all the houses there's slave shacks. There's women who are slaves who have no freedom. Yeah, and I never thought about that. But when I started the Telford investigation, God, they were all coming at me.
Yeah,
asking for help. All of them.
So what did you do with this
the police,
amount of information?
I made it public. I made it into a 5-part series of a documentary.
That people watched where?
On Rumble. It never got. Remember, I was censored. So
you're censored at the time all this is going on.
I was censored. The most important work I've done was once I was censored. And when I say the most important, it's the most important. You've got to watch this 5-part series. Yeah, it gives the girls an opportunity to tell their story. And and do you know what I wasn't ready for, which I didn't even think about. I sat there and let these girls put their face on camera and bleed their heart out and tell their story. And I never thought about the fallout for them. I never thought, we promised them safety, each one of them. So we moved entire families. You watch it on the documentary. We had to move mums because they come and smash the mums' houses up. The police didn't move them. The police left them there. Yeah, families have already been burned to death in this town. We end up relocating them, spending thousands. Thankfully, to the supporters who support my work, we're in a position. I guaranteed every girl that spoke to me, even if it was because lots of girls spoke to me privately. I said, if anything comes back, I guarantee you our full support. We will support you. We will help you. We sent 20 men to guard a house for 3 days, and they turned up with baseball bats and smashed women up. The gangs did. Yeah, chaos was going on. So to try and tell this story now, at the same time as this story, this is where we get onto the innocent Muslim lad.
Yeah.
At the same time as this story, a story blew up in Barrow up north. Yeah, and a girl had put online. So she'd put pictures of herself up, and she was beaten black and blue from head to toe. Yeah, she had bite marks, cuts. It was horrific. And the police arrested her when she put them up saying she'd been a victim of Muslim grooming gangs and she'd been targeted and trafficked, and she named all the towns and cities they took her to. Everything she said matched the same MO of what was happening in different towns and cities. So I went, and people say things about me, yeah? I investigate everything and I find out the truth. And anything I talk about, I'm knowledgeable on. I don't just sit there talking shit. I research it. Yeah. So I went to Barrow. I spent a week there, and when I turned up, pretty sharpish, I found out that lots of what this girl had said previously was questionable. Yeah. There was lots of things she was saying. Now, if she's making these if she's lying previously, which she has lied multiple times, yeah, she accused a boy, which people didn't know this at the time. No one knew this. And this was at the start of COVID. There was 1,000 cars. 1,000 lads had gone in cars into Barrow. Yeah. Barrow was about to explode.
To defend her.
To defend her. In anger at the police and the Muslim community. So there's Muslim businesses. There's no Muslims in Barrow, really, yeah? A Muslim lad, what was his name of his restaurant? His restaurant got attacked, yeah?
Yeah.
So I just went and approached them all. And when I got up there, an English lad come and said, Tom, I've followed you for years, yeah? I'm telling you, he's done nothing, bruv. And his business has been closed down. He's had a family business there for 30 years, yeah? He's had to lock up, yeah? So I said, will you talk to me? I've got lots of questions about all this. So I spent time with him, lovely lad, yeah? And then there was a lad called Mo Rami who was being accused of being the main groomer and the organiser of all of this. So I went and stood behind he has ice cream vans. And do you know what? When I heard his story, he reminded me of me. If someone says, don't draw a cartoon of Muhammad, I'll draw 10. Yeah. With Mo Rami, his way of dealing with this when he was being accused was to go out and put it in everyone's faces. He'd drive around his ice cream van going, fuck you to everyone, yeah? Now, and if he was a rapist, people are thinking, bloody hell, like, look,
he's got some balls.
He's got some front, yeah? But so I waited by the ice cream van and his wife saw me and she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? I said, I want to speak to Mo. Can I speak to Mo? I'm here to ask him some questions. I just want to ask him some questions. I'm not here. I'm here to investigate what's gone on. I want to give a fair representation to people. The difference is the police are coming out making comments. No one trusts them. No one believes them because they've lied so much. If I come out, I believe if I come out and tell the people of Barrow, this is how I see it, I think they have trust in that, yeah? So his wife told me to fuck off and I said, here's my number. Just give Mo my number. I then get a phone call from Mo and he says, what do you want? I said, can I just talk to you, Mo? And he says, yeah. He goes, all right, meet me at my house. And he drives, I think he was in Bolton. He comes to his house. And I go to his house. And as we're walking in the front door of his house, someone shouts at him, pedo, yeah? And then some girl shouts at me, rapist. No, not rapist. She shouts pedo at him and racist at me, yeah? So then as we walk in, I look at him and I said, well, I think I won that one. But then I sat down and his son was there. And his son was 16 and my son's 15, yeah? His son's had to leave college because of the allegations against his dad. And I sat there and thought about the difficulty my kids have had in their dad being labelled a racist at school. And I thought about what this family must be going through. He's being labelled as a child rapist. Yeah. And bearing in mind, I already know the girls lied about multiple things.
Yeah.
So I sat down with him and I said, Mo, I just want to ask you lots of questions. Yeah. Well, can I ask you questions? And he said, and I record everything. So I button cammed it. I'm recording everything. And the girl's dad, now, this girl had falsely accused people previously of rape. She'd lied. Someone in school, someone else, yeah? Now, her family know that. Now, when this is blowing up, her family haven't mentioned that. So her family are doing all these videos and this campaign to free Ellie without making the public...
So GoFundMe or
massive
something.
GoFundMe, yeah? Massive campaign. And they're calling for support to free Ellie, who's been put in prison for perverting the course of justice and remand at this time, because she kept breaching her bail conditions. She had bail conditions not to leave certain places and she'd be going missing, and which she'd accuse them of being groomed and raped. Yeah. So, but I knew they were lying. The family haven't told the truth. So I had a private investigator, someone following this, trying to find the stepdad. And I'm up there and I'm sat with the family. And I'm asking him questions and then my phone goes and they said, he's in KFC car park, we got him. Yeah. So I said, Mo, I'm going to have to leave because I found Ellie's stepdad. I need to ask him some questions, yeah? He said, all right. I said, can I come straight back here? And do you know what? He was really welcoming. He was. And do you know, I looked into him. He was a lad, just a lad, yeah? He was a lad and he'd had a history. Who hasn't? Doesn't mean he's a child groomer, yeah? And I said to him when I first met him and he recorded it. And I think they're doing a 4-part Channel 4 series now, yeah?
Okay.
And he recorded it. And I said, Mo, I'm here for the truth, yeah? If the truth goes against my narrative, I don't give a shit. Right? I'm going to tell the truth, right?
And not a lot of people understand that. I don't think that's important to you in your journalism.
And I said, and it went totally. It would have been easy for me to go to Barrow and say all these Muslim businesses are raping these kids, yeah, and jump in at that end. And that's what the media said I was doing. Yeah? They said Tommy's up here,
gone there to stoke a fire,
stoking the fire. Yeah. And what happened was, I've gone to the dad and I get out the car and I go up to him and he thinks I'm there to support him as well.
Yeah.
But when I got to him, I said, when are you going to tell the truth? Why aren't you telling the truth? You know your daughter's lied, yeah? This is all based on what your daughter says. These 1,000 cars, everyone's here ready to fight based on what your daughter says. But your daughter's lied multiple times. She's falsely imprisoned people on rape allegations, yeah? And you know that. So when are you going to tell the truth? And as I say this, some lad comes up on a bike and he says, "You fucking racist." And I said, "Oh, all right, mate, go on, fuck off." And then he carries on. I said, "What are you going to do? What are you here to do?" Right? And then he spits in my face. So I punch him a few times. I punch him up. He's on the floor. And then as I punch him up, I get back in the car and I'm like, fucking hell. And I go to Mo's house. And and my mate drops me outside and I go into Mo's house and I said, and this is all on our documentary. It's a great documentary. I said, "You ain't going to believe it." I said, "What?" I said, "I've just punched some geezer up in a car park. He spat in my face." And he's like, "Fuck." And Mo's like, "Fuck off." And then all the blue lights are outside. Yeah. And the police are all outside. And then I've got this Muslim lad saying, "Do you want me to get you in the boot out the back? Do you want me to take you out the back?" I said, "No, I can't get taken out the back." I said, because they'll just go to my house afterwards. And I had the footage for this. The footage was, the cameraman said, "Shall I delete the footage?" I said, "No, don't delete the footage. It shows him spit in my face." And then and from this and then I become friends with Mo. Yeah. But then when the police nicked me, they nicked me for assault. They nicked me for a hate crime as well, because the boy said, which were proved I didn't, because I had the recording. The boy said I called him a non-binary cunt or something, or something like that, which was proven he didn't. He should have get done for perverting the course of justice. But anyway, when I then get out, but my bail conditions, I weren't allowed to talk about grooming. I weren't allowed to enter that area. So my relationship with Mo was put on hold, and I wasn't allowed to say anything. Yeah. The minute then the girl's getting done, and I'd already put my documentary together, and my documentary showed. I went to one boy's house who was accused of rape at school, and when I knocked on his door, his mum just started crying. And she said, "Please don't, Tommy, please don't. He's only just got over this." I said, "But no one knows what she's done, yeah? She's previously lied about your son. She's previously accused another boy of rape and had him locked up. Now, and Mo, and now she's accusing Mo Rami. Now, I didn't know at that time if Mo Rami's innocent or guilty, but I knew he couldn't be tried by public opinion because she's a liar. No, there's nothing else other than what
So what happened?
So what happened? She ends up getting birded off. They ends up coming to trial, and then my documentary's ready, but it couldn't be released till after the trial. So the minute the trial goes out, bearing in mind all the media are saying I'm up there, stoking fear. Yeah. Mo Rami, ask him. It's not my words on the documentary. He says, "You're the only person who come to help us." Because when I sat down, I said...
It's different to the narrative that's portrayed for you in the media, isn't it?
Yeah, it is different to the narrative. And sometimes I've earned that narrative. Sometimes I've earned that narrative in my clash. Sometimes I've felt angered by things that have happened with certain Muslims that I've had clashes with. And I haven't
You spoke earlier about being 25 and at the front of the National Defence League and obviously being catapulted into something you weren't prepared for.
Yeah.
If you could go back and talk to 25-year-old Tommy, what would you have done differently? Or Stephen, should I say? Well,
no, so I'd led the English Defence League for 2 years. I get 10 months in jail, 22 weeks on solitary confinement. And do you know, I needed it at that time. Because I was surrounded by people who told me my shit didn't stink, yeah? I was surrounded by yes people in the English Defence League. Everything I'd done was great. Everyone's telling me everything I'd done was great. Whereas in reality, I say this, and I was a terrible husband, probably at times shit dad. It took over my life. This activism took over my life, and also at that time, and it carried on past that time. It carried on for years in my activism of just being so focused on what I'm doing and trying to do that it took over my life. And at times in there, you know, in 2014, they caught 6 Muslims. They travelled up to blow us up and kill us, yeah? They had guns, bombs, IDs. The absolute morons, right? They got there 2 hours late. So there's a video of them walking through where we were, but 2 hours too late, right?
So it's 6 men were on their way to kill you with guns, bombs and IDs.
Yeah, and then they get pulled over on the way home with no insurance, right? They get fucking idiots. It's like the 4 Lions. They get pulled over with no insurance.
I'm sure your wife didn't feel like that though.
No.
She was a little bit more scared.
Well, there's been many times they knocked them. They knocked in 2009 and gave my wife an Osman warning, the first one, and she's pregnant at the time. And I said, "What's this?"
Because I'm just sitting here talking to you and having studied a lot of your life, I'm wondering, your activism seems to come at quite a cost.
But the maddest thing, it comes at a cost to everyone who loves me, not me. No, it does come at a cost to me, but that's my problem. But the problem is when you're a father or a husband or a son, when you make decisions, it affects everyone. But the decisions I make, if I'm right, it's like I said, I said I had her dad, the ex-wife's dad, saying, "What are you doing? Look what you're doing. Look what you're doing to your family."
And surely as a parent, he's thinking, "Look what you're doing to my daughter."
Yeah. But I just said, "Am I wrong? Am I wrong?" And if I'm not, so I should shut up because I'm scared. I should shut up. That's how they shut everyone up. No, it doesn't work. I'm not doing it. And essentially...
But there must have been times when you've sat there and... I mean, has there been times when you've gone, do you know what? 6 men on my way. We're going to get into the Silence documentary, but a man said he was going to mince your children and put them through an organ grinder. Yeah. I mean, for a lot of people, even having that level of dialogue around your children is worrying. Have there been times when you thought, do you know what, I need to leave this? Or was there never any going back for you?
I just used to, I guess in those early years, once people get arrested and they're arrested, I remember the police come to see me, and it was before it was made on the news, and they said, listen, people have been trying to track you. Yeah, we've got a counter-terrorism investigation. Men have been arrested with guns, bombs, everything, right? They're trying to track you through your phone.
In Syria as well, right?
No,
they were intercepting you from Syria.
Yeah, no, this one was the one where they were caught in their car. Yeah. So basically, the police pull them over with no insurance, seize the car. They don't search the car. The car gets put in an impound. Then 2 days later, the impound opened the boot, and there's guns, there's suicide notes, everything. They didn't get stopped. Yeah? They didn't catch them. So then they've gone and nicked them, right? And they've gone and nicked them. And at that time, I thought, I guess in those early years, I guess I felt like I was walking around with a terminal illness. I thought, I'm dead. They're going to get me, yeah? This is on, yeah? I can't walk down the street without getting confronted. But I guess once you accept that, and I guess I drunk my way and partied my way through the worry of it at times, but once I accepted it, it's empowering in the sense that, which they have, right? It's like, I don't give a fuck anymore. I'm past that.
Some of the people I've had on here are terminally sick have quite often said the closest you come to life is death.
But I then just think, well, I don't care. You're not stopping me. I'm not shutting up. And I guess that when people talk about it, I think, well, it was never going to be female nurses that stood up to Islam or terrorism, yeah? So when you have to take the good with the bad. So, yeah, I'm not perfect, and I never claim to be polishing my halo, but it was my upbringing in the town of Luton that probably steadied me and put me in a position where I wasn't going to back down after a few punches on the nose. Yeah. Now, when it comes to the terrorism, those terrorists, I went to their court case. It was fucking mad. It was at the Old Bailey. It's quite funny. I went to their court case and they allowed 2 of us in, which was me and my cousin. So we're on the back row. And there's about 16 big bearded jihadists, all their family and all their friends, and they're sitting in the dock. And they're going through the evidence, and one of them's looking at porn. So when they go, we said not allowed to do.
Yeah, no.
Right? It's haram, right? So I'm sitting there looking at them, and they're all chuckling to themselves. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. But then I thought, what can I say in court as they get convicted? So they got convicted. I thought, what can I say in court that ain't going to get me done? Yeah, but
it's powerful at the same time.
Yeah, I said, God save the Queen. Yeah, because they also want to kill the Queen in their letters. Oh. So I said, God save the Queen, and the other 6, they've all turned around, and the whole court's kicked off, and it's all kicking off in there. We're dragged out. 6 months later, I'm charged and prosecuted. I'm in St Albans Crown Court, and I'm prosecuted under mortgage fraud. Right. So basically, when I started the English Fence League, they went back 6 years on every member of my family. Right, every member. They dug up everything they could dig up. Tax, anything. People selling things
to discredit you.
To find prosecutions. They've got my mum and dad's bank accounts. They didn't get nothing there, but they went in my ex-wife. Me, they charged with tax evasion. They nicked me on money laundering, didn't charge me on that, and mortgage fraud. Now, the mortgage fraud, so back then, under self-certification mortgages, if you put down 20%, you could say you earn whatever you earn to get the mortgage, yeah? Yeah. So my brother-in-law done that. He worked for me as an apprentice, yeah? I lent him...
Did it in your name or not?
No, in his name. We had 7 mortgages, they're all legit. I didn't have no mortgages that weren't legit. My brother-in-law, who was young, who was an apprentice, he earned 12 grand a year, but he said he earned 20. I lent him a deposit for the house. Yeah, to buy his first house. I used to get repossessions. So all 7 of the houses that we bought were repossessions. So he buys his first house. He does it up. It's in 2006. He does it up. He sells it a year later, buys it for 80, he sells it for 120. Yeah, pays me back my money. Right? He's got on a property ladder. 2 years later, I start the English Fence League. 3 years later, they come and nick us all. Right? So when they go through, they find he lied on his mortgage form. So then the money that comes from the sale, even though the mortgage company are paid back, is proceeds of crime. Right? But they don't pin it on him. They nick me.
How is that possible?
Because they nicked him, and they nicked my ex-wife on tax, and they nicked other family members. And when we got to trial, if I plead guilty, it's done for them. Yeah. Now all this trouble's come about because of me. Right.
Yeah. So you had to.
They've got me in a position. I can't. Yeah. No one knows what my ex-wife looks like. Right. Yeah. She can walk down the street. She can't walk down the street if she goes into court on tax. No. Yeah? There's a big high-profile court case. So that's what they've done. Yeah. So then I end up going to jail on a mortgage fraud. Now, so I end up going to jail where no banks lost any money, where everyone self-certified on their mortgages. It was encouraged by the banks. But I had to plead guilty to get my family off. So I pled guilty and I got 18 months. 18 months, man. I got 18 months and I get transferred to maximum security Woodhill. So I'm in Woodhill prison. I'm in Woodhill prison. And
how do you feel
mental
going in there?
What I didn't know, the 6 Muslims that I'm in court laughing at, shouting God save the Queen.
That were trying to kill you.
They're in there. They're in there. I see them on the second day. I go take to a legal. I look across and
listen. I know you say you're not scared. You must have been a bit scared.
No, I am scared. I've been scared the whole time. Shitting myself every time I go into jail. It's like I have to get myself ready to be someone I'm not every time I walk into prison. I face 2 years now. If I go into prison system...
Well, I want to talk about that. So we've touched a lot on the fact that you've actually done a lot of documentaries. You've got...
Watch the one with Mo Rami, yeah, the Muslim. You will love him, yeah? You will love him, right? His character-wise, he's one of the funniest lads I've ever met, right? And he's a lad, right? But you'll love him. So watch it. It's called Phantom Rape Gang. So, because it was just bullshit. The whole rape gang was bullshit. And their lives were destroyed. Look, and there's nothing, as I said... People can't be tried by public opinion. I've been tried by public opinion for the last 15 years, yeah? It's not nice when it's bullshit. I haven't been accused of being a rapist or a child rapist. So his life was thrown, man. All of their lives were. So it's a fabulous documentary. And as I said...
And where can people watch that?
That's on Rumble, Phantom Rape Gang. And it's under Tommy Robinson Official is my channel. But it's also a surprising documentary, as I said, because he says it. I think me and him done a joint podcast on James English. And he also wrote to his MP come out and said, I went up there and stoked the thing. He went to see his MP and said, you didn't help me. What are you talking about? You didn't help me. I was calling out for help for all of you. He helped me. He come here and said, if it's the truth, I'll help you. And it was the truth. And as I said, it's a great documentary.
So going back to your documentaries, should we talk about this Saturday? But you've got a documentary called Silence that you have never been allowed to show.
Yep.
That was made in what year?
I made it 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago.
And why has it not been shown?
It's not been shown because I was taken through the courts and given a gagging order. And do you know what? I failed. So as a journalist's job is to uncover corruption and expose corruption, regardless of costs, yeah? So there's journalists who have been killed, there's journalists who go into foreign countries, there's journalists who expose throughout history. They take risks, yeah? I have never, it's ate me up since the day. I walked out of court and I went to court and I got a gagging order, basically told that I can't play the film.
And the reason for that is what, for people that are listening? I've watched the documentary, so I understand a bit of it. So anyone that's listening to this, what is the actual reason that you've been put a gagging order on this? Because you filmed people covertly?
Because the judge found that, so covertly I filmed 7 teachers who confirmed everything I said, yeah? And they were paid, and they all say it on camera. Right, they're all sitting there on camera saying they paid us to not tell the truth. They paid us to remain silent. So basically, there was a story in the British news, world news, that fed a narrative to the British public, which was a total lie.
Yeah.
It was a total lie, okay? They didn't just lie, they full 360'd the story. They painted a picture that wasn't legitimate and no one told the truth. So I, as a journalist, went and investigated it again, spoke to parents, spoke to school, and I come out and made a video saying, you're being lied to. Huh? This is all bullshit. Now, for making that video and challenging their narrative, because it had blown up to one of the biggest news stories of that year across the world, yeah, they couldn't have the truth come out. They'd invited the child who, there was a Syrian refugee and he'd had a bottle of water poured over him and they said he was waterboarded and they said it was to do with him being Syrian and it was a racist attack. All bullshit. All total bullshit. It wasn't waterboarded. He had a bit of water poured over him, but there was a reason why that happened and they never told the public the true story, yeah? Or they never give them context to what was going on. So I made a video saying it. But by this point, Sajid Javid, our Home Secretary, had invited the Syrian refugee to the House of Parliament. Yeah? He'd been on all TV shows. Celebrities had come out in support of him. The government had fully supported him. Yeah?
He's raised over £180,000.
£180,000 was given to him in 48 hours. Now, on a lie. And the whole thing wasn't just lied. In my documentary, it was planned. The incident didn't happen. It didn't happen. The video didn't go viral organically. It was planned over a 5-week period. And then they planned to pump it because it fed the public a story that was a narrative that suited the establishment, was open border, mass migration, or Syrian refugees being welcomed into the country, poor Syrian victim, and horrible English racists. That's not the story. That wasn't the truth. And because I made a video, they threatened me and said, again, apologise and pay £50,000. And I said, no. I'm not apologising, it's the truth, yeah? And I stand by it. So they prosecuted me through the courts. And the film shows what happens from start to finish. And it shows the incredible lengths they will go to destroy someone's life for standing up against them. And they did destroy my life. They caused my divorce. They caused my bankruptcy. They bankrupted me for £1.6 million. And at the time of bankruptcy in the court case, I produced evidence of 7 recordings. I produced school records that proved what I said was true. And I brought 5 children that didn't know me to court as witnesses. And when I brought those kids to court, I didn't want to bring them to court because you were worried about being associated, sitting next to me, asking me questions. Imagine what it's like for these kids forever having their names associated with me. So the first thing we fought in the court case was that the judge wouldn't allow the children to be named. And the reason I wanted to do that, because one of the young girls was a grade A student who had 11 A stars, and she was studying law at university. So for her to come to court and stand up in the oath and defend what I said as being true...
Changed the trajectory of her life.
It has changed the trajectory of her life, unfortunately. Totally changed. She's had to cancel her, come off of her course and everything. It's changed her life. Totally
By
ruined.
her telling the truth?
By her telling the truth. It's ruined her life. The judge ruled she had to be named. And when he ruled she had to be named, I sat them down again that night and said, I don't want you to do this. I'm telling you, I don't want you to do this. Yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah, I don't want you to do it. She wanted to do it.
Because she wanted to tell the truth?
Your microphone, close.
Sorry, because she wanted to tell the truth?
Yeah, she wanted to tell the truth, man. And then she did tell the truth. And do you know how courageous it was of those young kids to come to court and testify? And so she testified that she was attacked with a hockey stick. And another child testified that he witnessed it. And another child testified that the Syrian called his mum a white slag and attacked him, and he was 4 years younger. Because the Syrian refugee has a broken arm in the video. Now, we were told by Muslim propaganda lawyers on TV, every TV channel, that he had a broken arm from a similar racist attack. That's what we were told, yeah? He had a broken arm. When I knocked at the head teacher's door with a hidden camera, the head teacher said, do you know how he broke his arm? And I did know, but I said, no. How did he break his arm? He said he was attacking a boy 4 years younger than him, and he had him in a headlock. And another boy pushed him off to get him off the kid he was attacking. And I said, okay. And he said, that's how he broke his arm. He said, I investigated it. I said, but that's not what the public had been told. The public had been told. And then the head teacher goes on to say, we told the media the truth on this, but they wouldn't report it. We told them the truth. So there was a mass silencing campaign. Everyone was intimidated. And then they prosecuted me. And one of the other things, now bearing in mind, these are the facts of the case. That girl come out and said that she was attacked with a hockey stick before I was even involved in this story. Yeah. Another girl's mum come out and said that her daughter was violently attacked by the Syrian refugee. Now, I then come out, spoke to them and reported it. Yeah. Then the girl who says she was violently attacked made a statement, the mum did, saying it was untrue. I go to her house with a hidden camera to say what's going on. She said, Tommy, they threatened to rape me. They threatened to rape me. I said, okay.
Who's they?
She said, the local Muslims were all threatening to rape the family. She said, so, and this was in Huddersfield where the biggest rape gang was on trial at that time. So she said, Tommy, I've got to live here and so's my daughters. I said, I get it, don't worry. She said, I'm so sorry. Yeah. I said, it's all right, but you know they're prosecuting me through court saying I lied. She said, I know, I'm too scared. And then her daughter comes down and says, we're too scared. I said, okay, but I got all this on camera.
Yeah.
So I got all this on camera to give to the judge to say, actually, what I said was true.
Yeah. So the judge seen all of this?
Judge saw it all. And
judge watched the documentary?
Watched it all, saw it all. Do you know what he done? He listed everything he watched and then threw it in an injunction and said, you can never show anyone it.
Because of what?
Because he says it was untrue. In his verdict, he says, sometimes people lie. They don't need a reason to lie. They just lie. So he found that this young grade A student, before my involvement in the case, just made up she was attacked with a hockey stick. He found that a mother who doesn't know me, who just also made up she was attacked. He found that another girl also made up she was attacked. So they all just made up. The school records, bearing in mind he ruled against me for defamation. So I said that the Syrian refugee threatened to stab someone. When I got up there with a secret camera and started investigating, I find out he did stab people. Yeah, I'll get the school records. The teacher says he stabbed someone. He gets caught with a knife and screwdriver in his school bag. Yeah. How can I be found to defame someone when this is what he's doing? Yeah. So the judge ruled that everything in this entire case was a lie. Now, the child who said he threatened to stab him gave evidence. And when he gave evidence, I went through his school record and said, do you know how many disciplinaries you've got in your school record for lying? None. Yeah. Then we went through another teacher, which I've got on camera, who just said the Syrian refugee just lied about everything all the time. We got his school records. He's got disciplinaries for lying. His own caseworker, it's all in the documentary.
So why do you believe in all the work that you've done and that the media are creating this narrative for what benefit? There'll be a lot of people saying, well, why would they do that?
I'll tell you, so the government allowed 20,000 Syrian refugees into our country at the height of the ISIS war. That was against the wishes of the British public. Now, this is the story of one of them. One of them has been causing mayhem, attacking girls, causing mayhem in the school. Yeah, that's the allegations, yeah? So that's one of them. So that is a failure policy of the governments. Yeah, they can't allow that. Because if people can see the reality of what their problems are, of their mass immigration, of bringing these people in, I don't blame this. But by the way, in this film, this child's a victim. Yeah. He's 15. Both children are victims. They've both been used. He's been totally used. Do you know what? I'm currently being prosecuted. The claimant, which is the Syrian, doesn't want me prosecuted because he probably doesn't want it all blow up again. His solicitors, who are fraudulent bastards anyway, you can see it on the documentary, they don't want it prosecuted. Right? I'm being prosecuted by the Attorney General, the government. So when people say it's political, this is political. The government are trying to lock me up for 2 years. You know when? So this film was leaked 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago in America in a cinema. Okay,
leaked or shown?
Shown. So, but when I say leaked, I didn't put the film out. I've never shared this film. I've never put it out. And do you know that's ate me up for 3 years because I failed myself and I failed the public to show them the truth. I failed. They continue to be allowed to lie about this story for another 3 years. Everything you read is that Tommy Robinson lied. No, I didn't. I told the truth. I was the only journalist who told the truth. And for telling the truth, they absolutely smashed my life. Yeah. And the scary thing is, how many other stories are they lying about? How many other stories are you sitting watching on the news that are totally fabricated and fabricated to suit a narrative? It's the government's narrative. And this child was used in this story, yeah? So anyone who watches this film, I say it in the film, I don't hold any bearance against this Syrian refugee. He was a 15-year-old kid who come from a war zone. Of course he's got problems, yeah? But should those problems be imported into the classroom with our kids? No, they shouldn't, right? He was safe in Turkey, okay? He was in Turkey.
So who showed it in America?
It was shown in America by a group called Mice Media. Now, General Flynn commented on it. There was a lot of influential people there who made comments. I went to Denmark.
By it being shown in America, does that mean it doesn't break the breach here, or is it not allowed to be shown in it?
No, the injunction covered everything. So basically, if anyone shows it, they can screw me. Now, they didn't. So I was, when it got leaked in America, I left the UK and I sat in Spain and I was in a bad place because I was thinking, I'm in trouble now. Yeah. And I should have just put the film out myself. That's what I should have done.
And face the consequences.
I said,
which would have been what?
2 years. And for me, that's not 2 years of 8 hours out of your cell a day. That's either 2 years of solitary confinement total. That's what they've done the last 3 times I've been to jail. Or it's getting killed in jail because the jail's controlled by Islamic gangs. So me walking into jail isn't just like, oh, I'm going to jail. It's terrifying. Yeah, it's like could be the end of my life. Could be the end of my life or end of my sanity. So for me,
both.
Or both. So for me, it's a problem. It's a real big problem. But not putting that film out has ate me up for 3 years.
And was that a difficult decision for you to make to not put it out?
It's the worst decision I ever made because it ate me up for 3 years. It drove me to points of insanity anyway.
So I looked up the definition of a journalist.
Yeah.
So the role of a journalist is stated to uphold and defend the principles of media freedom, the right of freedom of expression, and the right of the public to be informed. Do you believe that you upheld?
I didn't on that time, no. I failed by being gagged and allowing them to gag me.
But you believe the documentary?
The documentary absolutely upholds every one of them. And that's why they brought out these orders. And I've got other orders against me, preventing me telling the truth about other stuff. And so have Americans now. I know a girl called Laura Loomer, she's gagged. She's gagged as well. So how many people are being gagged by courts, which is an infringement of the freedom of the press? We haven't got freedom. I've done my last documentary called Lawfare. There is no freedom of the press. It's all bullshit. We have a controlled media, totally controlled media. Yeah?
What do you mean by that?
I mean that. So when I was running the English Defence League, I was using the name Tommy Robinson. There was a journalist called Stephen Bird. Look him up. High-ranking journalist. He was writing for the Times newspaper at the time. They found out who I was. They knocked on my mum's door and I went to meet him. And he said to me, "Your life changes tomorrow, son." I said, "Why?" He said, "You're on the front page of the Times newspaper. We're unmasking you as Stephen Lennon. Yeah? So everyone's going to know who you are." And that did mean my life changed. It meant all the Muslim gangs in Luton know the leader of the EDL was me. Yeah? The leader doing all these balaclava interviews is me. Yeah. So my life was about to change. I was shitting myself, man. Absolutely shitting myself. But then I kept in contact with him because what he wrote was fair. And other than he tried to dramatise the council estate that he was in.
His job probably.
Yeah, his job. But so I kept in contact with him, Stephen Bird. Now, when I come out of jail in 2018, the government were doing polling on social media about what you think about Tommy Robinson. They were worried. They were worried because when they locked me up for this reporting outside the court, when they gave me 13 months, which was proven as unlawful, 660,000 British people signed a petition to have me released and 30,000 people marched on Parliament. Yeah. My support had gone through the roof. When I come out and went live on Facebook, my Facebook went up to 1.2 million people. It was the most engaged Facebook profile there is in the country. I had more support on Facebook than all the political parties combined. Yeah. When I went live, I had minimum 30,000 people watching. Right. So they commissioned Panorama to do an investigation into me. Have you watched Panorama?
No.
Oh, you've got.
I've watched the covert recordings that you were saying and showed like clips of it.
Wait until you see it. Yeah. So basically, they're doing So I get told there's a panorama. They're approaching people I fell out with over the years. They're approaching everyone.
They approached your staff to.
They approached my ex-staff that I'd sacked, and they approached them. So when the ex-staff come to me, and she hated me, yeah, because I sacked her. Yeah, she came to me and said, I just think it's wrong what they're doing. Yeah, the project is called Tommy Takedown. Yeah, they're going to fuck you. Now, Panorama I was shitting myself, I was terrified. Panorama are the best, yeah? Investigative journalists, they're their best reputation. So if they tell the public something...
They believe them.
It's true, yeah? So I then said, okay, will you go undercover into them? Can I give you bullshit and let's see what they do with it?
Yeah.
And I put a hidden camera on her and I sent her out and I sent her into John Sweeney, who was the head of Panorama. And basically, she went in with so she said to them she had a recording of me and her arguing. And it was to do with a Muslim. Nothing to do with sex or anything like that.
Totally fictional, yeah.
Totally. And she said, and he said, how aggressive does he get? And she said, yeah, he gets really aggressive. He said, great. And she said, yeah, but I get aggressive with him. He said, don't worry, we can cut all that out. Yeah, we can cut all that out. That's what he says. And he goes, right, we can do what we're going to do. We're doing a sexual thing against Tommy Robinson. Like, what the fuck? I'm listening. When she come out and I'm listening to this, I'm thinking, what the fuck? Right? What do they mean they're doing a sexual thing against me? Yeah. So, and they basically want to build me up as Harvey Weinstein. Yeah. That's what they're going to do on a documentary.
And there's no going back from that kind of.
They're ruining my life. They're ruining my kid's life. Imagine my kids going to school next day. Yeah. Imagine what it's going to do. So I then shit myself. So when she comes back with the recordings, I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? Who are they talking to? What are they planning? Who have they got saying? Then my other two employees, when I come out of jail. One of my employees, probably the first time he's going to listen to this, he was still logged into my computer. So I go on the computer and I've got his email. And I look back and for 6 months he's having regular meetings with Hope Not Hate. Hope Not Hate are a far-left George Soros-funded organisation whose job it is to attack anyone who challenges government narrative. Yeah, they come after you, they crucify you, they do reports on you, they put you as a hate figure, all these things. And I looked and they were meeting. And Hope Not Hate were paying the money, so while they're working for me, they're getting paid money by a far left group to give information, right? And where we're meeting, what we're doing. So, but I ring the lad up. I said, "Well, mate, what's going on? I told him I've got someone in Hope Not Hate." I said, "I know you met with them at Prezzo's," and he's like, "Oh, Tommy," and he starts crying. He said, they've been blackmailing us. And basically what happened is when my two ex-employees worked for Rebel Media, they left Rebel Media. Now what Hope Not Hate do is they come in, anyone you fall out if they come into. Yeah. And there was big expose recently at Hope Not Hate because they were calling Nigel Farage a Nazi and racist and all this. So but when they left Rebel Media, they sat down with Hope Not Hate, who are the enemy, and they gave them loads of information. Now, because they'd done that, Hope Not Hate then had them, yeah? And they've been saying, what would everyone on the right think if they knew you were meeting with us and giving us information, yeah? So they were blackmailing them. Now, what it turns out is they weren't just blackmailing them, he sexually assaults him. So, we get all this on the recording, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? He goes, when Panorama come to interview me, they used my ex-employee.
Yeah.
When they come to interview me, Hope Not Hate is standing there. Yeah, a far-left extremist organisation. So what Hope Not Hate do, and then when he wouldn't say enough negative stuff about me, he says, come outside. They go outside and say, you got to get in there and you got to fucking say more. You got to say this, you got to say that. And he's crying his eyes out, yeah? And he goes, Tommy, I didn't want to do it, yeah? So then I know, well, hold on, the Panorama are BBC. They're meant to be neutral. What are they doing working for a far-left extremist organisation who are blackmailing people to say things about me? Yeah, so they're blackmailing people to say things. Then I've got John Sweeney, who sits this girl down and he says, right, what I want you to say is this, this and this. If you say these three things, it's on the documentary. Do we have a deal? It's not journalism. Yeah. So then Panorama are contacting me
to give a comment.
To give my comment on their documentary that they've made. But they don't know. I've been filming them for weeks. Yeah. They don't know. Right. So I sit up and I remember it was my daughter's assembly at school. I was shitting myself because I know Panorama's coming out. It's going to fucking crucify me to the public. Yeah. And why are they doing this? They're doing this because it's a hit piece because my support has gone through the roof. They're going to end me. Right? That's what they're doing. They're going to.
Do you think that's what happens? People get too big and too powerful, listened to.
I think you can like Andrew Tate or not like Andrew Tate. Yeah, look what they've done to him. You can like Russell Brand or not like Russell Brand. The timing, he starts talking against Big Pharma. Bang, they come for him. Right? Come for him. And this is across the board, right? So sexual allegations, anything that can crucify you. So I then So they've been contacting me. I'll tell you what happened. And it's funny because on their covert recordings, she says I'm scared. The girl, it's all bullshit, but she says I'm scared. She says you're scared. You want to? So they sent someone to deliver papers to my ex-wife's house, and someone pressed the buzzer and said, "Is Stephen Yaxley there?" I thought, no one calls me Stephen Yaxley. So I'm looking through, and he's standing at the door. I said, "Ask him who he is." And I'm in the house, and she says, "Who are you?" And he goes, "Oh, for fuck's sake!" And she said, "You got any ID? Who are you?" He goes, "Is he here?" And I'm thinking, who the fuck is this? So I've jumped over the fence and come round the back to where he's getting in his car because I think someone's come to do me on my front door. But I run out on him and jump out on him, yeah? And he absolutely shits himself. I'm like, who the fuck are you? And I'm here to give you papers. He was a courier. Yeah. He was a courier. So when John Sweeney's talking to the girl, he says, fucking hell, he was going to kill our bloke outside his house. But I said, I'm facing the potential of terrorists at my house,
yeah.
or my family's house. So he didn't identify himself. He had a car parked at the end of the road. It was pretty strange. So then I know they're trying to serve me these papers for a documentary they've made against me. So then I ring them and say, right, you want to interview me? They said, yeah, we need to interview you. I said, right, you're going to have to do it tomorrow at this location. That's it. Yeah. So I throw it on them last minute. So they haven't got time to think. Yeah. And in this location, I set up a screen on the wall prior. So I go set it up in the morning. I've got my daughter's assembly, so I can't miss my daughter's assembly. So I get it all set up. They're coming at 2:00. So I leave my cameraman there. I said, get them set up. I'll come in late because I've got the assembly. Just tell them I'll wait here. So I go do my daughter's assembly. I am so nervous, man. I'm panicking. I'm panicking because I think my life's about to end with this film. Whatever they've got in this film, whatever they're going to show.
That must be petrifying.
It was the worst thing. As I said, I don't care about punching the nose. I'm not bothered about a confrontation.
How did your wife feel that the thought of the sexual assaults? Did she...
I've always said, treat your wife like old Bill. Tell her nothing. Yeah?
She didn't know this.
To maintain her sanity a lot of the time.
So she doesn't know that her husband's
A lot of the time, whatever I was doing, I walk in my house and everything's cool. Okay, so I keep it. I remember once the school rang up, so I must have been with the kids at the petrol station, and I've nearly had a fight at the petrol station in Luton, and somehow the school teachers have found out about it, and they've mentioned it to Jenna, and she's like, "What happened yesterday? What the fuck's happened yesterday? And why didn't you tell me? Because I don't want to worry him. So I wouldn't worry her. So if those threats against me, I'd keep it
private.
Keep it private.
But bringing it back, so you're in Panorama, you set up these screens.
Set up this screen. I walk in. It's the best documentary you're ever going to watch. I'm telling you. It's the best takedown of the BBC there's ever been, yeah? So I walk in and I say, right, John, and it was strange because I've done lots of documentaries, yeah? They bring usually it's the presenter and the cameraman. But when I went in, there's 3 or 4 people sat on the seats. I said, who are you? We're the producers. It's the executives of Panorama. So they're all sitting there. We've got him. And do you know what I've done? So what I've done is, in the build-up, I went on so with the girl, Lucy, who I said, right, you hate me. Because they're approaching people who hate me. Yeah? You hate me. So let's see if the best investigative journalists in the world check whether you're telling the truth or making stuff up. Open your computer. And I said, I'm at home in bed in a minute. Yeah? Go on your computer. Go to sendafaketext.com. Yeah? So she goes to a website, sendafaketext.com. I said, now send yourself a text from me saying, if you work with Panorama, I'm going to bury you, you filthy bitch. Yeah? Bearing in mind, you're doing this. Yeah. I'm in bed. Yeah. Right? I'm in bed. Let's see if they say. So she does that. She goes to Panorama and she says, look what he sent me. Yeah? And she hands him this thing. And I think, well, they should check whether it's real or fake. Yeah. So she hands him this thing. So that's what he's got. Yeah. He thinks I'm threatening to kill her. I then sit down opposite John Sweeney, and I was furious and terrified. And I look at him and say, okay. And I say, before we start, you're Panorama, you're independent, right? It's the BBC. You wouldn't be working with anyone else on this film, would you? And he says, no. I said, you're in control of this film. He said, yeah. And I had messages from Joe Mulhall from Hope Not Hate messaging my employee saying, we are driving the film. So a far left extremist group, so I showed him the message, said, okay, so why are a far left extremist group saying they're in control of this film to bring me down? And he said, well, and then I said, John, I said, press play. And then it had my employee saying that when he was being interviewed by Panorama, Hope Not Hate were there blackmailing him. So I said, let me ask you another question. When you interviewed my ex-employee, were Hope Not Hate present in that interview? And he went, I said, so they were. I said, what were Hope Not Hate doing present in an interview for the BBC Panorama? I said, what are you doing working with extremist organisations who are named by the Swedish government as a far-left extremist organisation? Why are they present in an independent documentary by the BBC? And he just sat there. I said, okay, let's go. I need to ask you these questions, John. Would you ever tell anyone what to say in a documentary? Would you ever do that? Is that fair journalism? He said, no, I wouldn't. I just said, press play. And the whole time it's playing behind my head, I'm just staring at him. And I can see the colour draining from his face. And bearing in mind, he's drunk a lot of the time as well because he's a pisshead. So he's sitting, he don't know what's coming next. He don't know what I've got. And then I look across at their executives and they're literally like this. They're sitting with their hands in their heads. And I think, yeah, you fucking bastards, you're done.
Does this mean that they weren't able to produce the
documentary?
documentary?
No, it didn't come out. It ended. It couldn't. They put John Sweeney on gardening leave. And then I said to him, and John, remember the accusations the BBC make against us? They made these rules, yeah? Do you know what he said? So he's in a Greek restaurant and he said, whenever you get a Greek waitress, say this. And it was Turkish because they were raped by the Turks. And he started laughing. I said, how funny is it? So I said, so you think it's funny to mock Greeks for the previous atrocities put on them by the Turks? And then I said, do you know what he said about me? He said, I'm from scumbag Irish background. Now, what does that mean? I'm poor because my family are from poverty, because my family are working class. So and then in his description, it's mental. In his description of Danny Lockwood, who's another journalist from a working class background, he said, well, when we found out that someone from working class was in the green room in the BBC, we had to go down and see him. It was like, you know, if you went to the Amazon to see someone from Mongolia or something like that. It's like, you view the world, and I said to him, you view us as like creatures. This is what you've said. And then I got.
So did they have to issue an apology?
So no, they sat there, and then as I get up, they say, this is a documentary we're making about you. And I think you ain't got a clue. You're banged to rights, yeah?
Yeah. And what happened? They were held accountable?
No, they put him on gardening leave straight away. So John Sweeney was put on gardening leave for 9 months, yeah? I then hired the biggest screen they have in Britain, 50 metres, I think, and I put it outside the BBC's offices, and I played Panodrama. I called it Panodrama. And I showed that Panorama, everything you think about the BBC or fake news, I got it all banged to rights. You are liars. You were creating a documentary. You were telling people what to say, and you were going to ruin me. And not just that, I started looking through other Panorama documentaries and thought, Jesus, Panorama is a weapon by the establishment. And when they want to finish someone, they use it. And it's got credibility.
Yeah.
Whether it be, they said, what did they say about Assad? Assad had already won the war. He'd already won the war. American generals already said they won the war. And then they put out a documentary saying he's gassing his own citizens. It's like, he's already won the war. Why is he going to gas
So how much of the stuff that we read do you think is real?
That's the problem. How do we know? And you can go down that hole then, because I don't believe anything. I don't believe anything.
Did you get jabbed?
No, I didn't get jabbed. No, of course not. No, I didn't get jabbed, no. No, and the problem is, people who believe them are now ill. And they're vaccine injured, and unfortunately they don't care about us. So, and with Panorama, do you know what happened is, so I played the film. I'm out of jail 9 months on that previous case, yeah. So I'm out of jail on the case where I've had unlawful arrest and I've been freed. I'm out of jail. I've gone to the Old Bailey. I've gone before the head judge, and the head judge of the Old Bailey, I put together everything. So basically, when they said that I breached a reporting restriction. Now, for there to be a reporting restriction, it has to be on the screen and on the courtroom door. When I went in that morning, I took a picture of the screen, took a picture of the courtroom door. Yeah. So when I went before the head judge, I listed everything. I said, everything I said was in the public domain. Here's a picture of the court door. Here's a picture of the screen. I went in to find out if there's a reporting restriction. He kicked the case. And there's a video of us all coming out of court and we celebrated because I've won. Yeah. He kicked the case to the government and said, I'm not prosecuting him. Yeah. Basically, you've got nothing. I'm not prosecuting him on this. Yeah. So now I thought, I'm free now. I produced this documentary. And outside BBC, within 48 hours, I was deleted from YouTube. I was deleted off Facebook. I was made a figure of hate, which meant if you mention my name on Facebook, you get deleted. Yeah. So, and the Attorney General contacted my solicitor saying we're prosecuting him for.
So this was the beginning of your ghosting.
This is what I got. I was made invisible because this film had 2 million views in 48 hours. This film.
How many views do you think you're going to get on this film the weekend when you show it?
Don't know. When's this going out?
It'll go out after.
After, okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, so I'm showing the film.
Yeah.
So
what's happening? That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you here. There's a few things.
I failed myself. I'm not failing myself again.
So what's happening on Saturday? What is the aim?
Saturday is, I've sort of changed it, which unfortunately, Saturday was the launch of a cultural movement with people coming together with the need for an identity and to focus on protecting British values in the UK. Lots of like-minded individuals, far bigger than me, yeah? The whole movement's far bigger than me. So we held one on June the 1st. It was a fabulous day. So the 27th is, I believe, going to be the biggest gathering of patriots this country's ever seen, yeah? Coming together peacefully with bands, music and celebration for being British, yeah? Because for too long we've been made to feel ashamed of being British, and we're the best. And so that's it. We've got the best culture. Our culture is far superior to any others, so let's not keep being ashamed of it, yeah? They keep saying all cultures are equal. No, they're not, yeah? So we're coming together to celebrate who we are. Now, I'm not going to fail myself again. I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm playing that film.
What's made you want to do this?
I've wanted to do it for 3 years. And I don't think, do you see what? I'll tell you what it is. The politicisation, the weaponisation of the judiciary is a threat to all of us. It's a threat to democracy. It's a threat to freedom of speech. When they use courts without juries, I've never been tried by a jury. So when they use judges, what I've found out since is that Justice Nicklin, the judge that ruled against me, fell out of his father before my court case. His father was a supporter. He fell out of his father. He should have excused himself from that court case. He didn't. Okay, so he ruled unfairly. He should have excused himself. He ruled against every bit of evidence, and then he's tried to cover his arse as a lawyer by putting gagging orders. Well, that worked for 3 years. What they've done by now coming after me is the biggest mistake they're ever going to have done. They think they're putting me on trial. I'm about to put them on trial. The judiciary's going on trial for the world on Saturday, yeah? I think we'll have over 1 million people watching live. I think our documentary will be seen by 10 million people within a week. That's what I hope, yeah? Then, if you want to, come and get me if you want to send me to jail, yeah? If you want to send me to jail, everyone's going to know the truth. You ain't sending me to jail and telling people I lied, yeah? Because everyone who watches the film knows I didn't lie, yeah? So that's all right. When you had me censored for the last 3 years, 5 years, you could feed bullshit to the public and I can't challenge it, yeah? Well, now, I think 1 billion people have seen my messages in the last 3 months.
You were on Jordan Peterson recently as well.
Yeah, that's 4 million have viewed that. His 2 ones, 4 million in the last 2 weeks. Jordan Peterson's doing a part 2.
What do you think? I think the pendulum has swung so far one way. What do you think is swinging this way for people to what they would have? People
have seen. I think there's a multitude of things. I think that COVID certainly helped. COVID helped in the sense that people saw that they lied and didn't care, and they totally lied. They went against the science continually. Yeah, whether it be lockdowns, forcing vaccinations, bullshitting everyone, not letting you go to a funeral, not letting you see your family. So people eyes were opened and made them question a lot. Now I question everything anyway. Yeah, I'm free thinking. I question everything and anything. Yeah, they don't want us to be free thinkers. They want us to be slaves. They want us to be told what to think and how to think about everyone. So I think a lot of people questioned it certainly since COVID, but the lies have continued. And as I said, it ain't me being censored now. It's doctors, nurses, scientists. So people are questioning a lot more. And I think that since October 7th, with the Hamas, BBC wouldn't even call them a terrorist organisation, but since that barbaric jihadist attack, we have seen the total failure of our government and police to deal with these jihadists. Yeah, we've seen calls for jihad. We've seen call for the gas and the Jews. We've seen a total rise in hate on our streets, and the police have done nothing. And do you know what? Do you know this case? So I'm in Spain. I've left the UK because this film's been played. I spend a year out there, 9 months out there, and I'm dwindling. And to be honest, it's the worst thing for me. I was in a terrible place. I was lost in what to do, separated from my family, and I'm sitting there, and my phone bangs up, and my Twitter's turned on. I'm like, what? And I'm like, what the fuck's this? And I looked and Katie Hopkins is on. So I messaged Katie Hopkins saying, you're back on Twitter. I'm back. What's going on? Because I've been censored. And do you know what it's like to have your voice taken? And
what is that like?
I've sat for 5 years and watched everyone lie. I sit and watch journalists and reporters and all of them just sit and lie and not being able to counter a lie.
One of the conversations we were having, I don't believe that everyone's meant to have the same opinion. By having you on the show does not mean I believe or follow anything. And one of the reasons that I did want to speak to you as well is that separately we're bringing on this series that's based on human trafficking. So there was so much synergy around it. I'm going to sit down and interview a convicted human trafficker. Yep. That does not make me a trafficker. That does not make me believe or have the same beliefs as them. So the reasons that everyone was stopping me from doing this was the reason why I feel like it's so important.
It is important.
Because once you stop that...
You only get one message. One side of the story.
Where does it stop? But on Saturday, you're going to show this regardless, the silence documentary. And what do you think that looks like after you... I mean, because technically you should be in prison for 2 years on Saturday. Is that right?
Yeah. Who knows, man? The problem is like that's what I said with my kids. Why didn't I show it before? Because I was terrified. Because I was scared. I was scared for myself, and I was scared for my family, and scared of the effect it would have on them. But then it put me in a bad place anyway. And essentially, if they can manage to, I'm meant to be I haven't backed down, and I think people rely. Unfortunately, people are scared in British society to speak freely. If they allow us to be gagged, if they allow me to be gagged, then I've lost. I've lost anyway. And essentially, and what I stand for, I was going to say, I'm going to have this message to my children when I talk on Saturday to say that I just can't. I can't. And I think that the best form of disinfectant is sunlight. And I think that the post office scandal people only realise the truth of it when they can see the truth. The public, once the public knew the truth. Well, on Saturday, the public are going to know the truth. And I don't know what lengths they're going to go to.
So where will the people who are not there on Saturday be able to view this?
It's going to go on my X account, because now I've got an X account. So the last documentary I put out on the 1st of June went to 6.5 million views, yeah? And so it'll be pinned on my X account. And I think the likes of Jordan Peterson, who have watched the film, who are outraged by it, they can give their comment. Gad said there's lots of... This has gone far beyond me now. And the reason this is important is this film isn't about me. Katie Hopkins was taken through the courts and lost her house, yeah? Alex Jones was hit for £1 billion, okay? Donald Trump has continued to face court persecution and court bullshit, yeah? They are weaponising the courts. Geert Wilders faced the same. He's now Prime Minister of Holland, but for years he was dragged through the courts on bullshit charges. Marine Le Pen now faces the same. Morten Messerschmidt had the same. This is anyone who spoke out against the European Union, the globalist agenda, any of these things, whether it be in vaccines, yeah, they weaponise the court systems against them. So if they can't silence you through censorship, they're not just happy with silencing you. They want to bankrupt you and take everything off you. They want to leave you vulnerable and finished. That's what they want to do. Yeah?
Which is what they were close to doing with you.
They've been many times. Well, they did do it to me. I had to leave my family.
So what results do you want to see as the effects of your activism? Some people want to be part of the establishment. So I look at Reform Party and I think I don't want to be part of the establishment. I want to bring down that establishment. Currently, we have a corrupt establishment who everything they're doing is going against the interests of the British people. Mass migration goes against the interests of the British people. Yeah, they've sold us out. Their relationship with Big Pharma goes against the interests of the public. Yeah? All of these things are for profit and money before people. And I want to see people before profit and money. And I want to see the interests of our country and the interests of my children. And do you know, I always try and have this conversation with your wife, yeah, at the time. Yeah.
When the chaos is coming, yeah. And I say that this is far bigger than me or you or my kids. This is far fucking bigger. Now, if someone has to fight, and I've said this, if someone has to fight, let me fight. I want to fight. I don't want my son to have to fight. I don't want him to grow up being oppressed or being treated like a second-class citizen in his own country or being a minority in his own country. The face of this country is changing forever. Yeah, not for the better. Not for the better. And at some point, people got to stand up and say they can't keep moving. Everyone just moves. So I'll leave Luton. Yeah, sound. Well, where are you going to move to next? When are you going to get to the coastline? Then what are you going to do?
But I think there'll be a lot of people that will say we're just merging to become one and that should be celebrated.
We're not merging to become one. There's no assimilation or integration. We're being divided. We're being divided by the establishment. We're being put into you're straight, you're gay, you're black, you're Muslim, you're non-Muslim. And there is no integration. And what we're seeing is a dominant culture and a dominant force. Islam doesn't integrate or assimilate. It never has. There's 45 countries we can look to previously where it's gone to as a minority and it becomes the majority. Yeah, Turkey was Christian. Syria, Iraq, where are the Christians now? They're persecuted, driven out, or murdered. Yeah? What does anyone think this country is going to be any different? Yeah? Islam, and unfortunately, having these conversations, and as I said, I'd sit, and Muslims, imams will agree with you. Yeah, it's about domination. Islam is. It's not about integration or assimilation. It's not here to peacefully coexist. It's here to dominate.
And how do you feel? I know you've got a lot of followers that feel outcast if they would support you in public and people in positions of power. How does that make you feel that people are, like young Stephen was, too scared and want to protect their businesses and their families and they're not too scared to come and rally with you? And I don't
blame them. I don't blame them. So I fully understand it. As I said, I wore a mask and used a fake name. So I don't blame them. But that's changing anyway. That's changing anyway. See all the people who are going to line the stage with me on Saturday. They wouldn't have lined the stage with me 2 years ago. You see the Jordan Petersons, they wouldn't have spoke to me 2 years ago. You see the people who are coming out in my support across the world, yeah, wouldn't have 2 years ago. Yeah. So there has been a massive shift. I see the shift.
Yes.
I get to see the shift.
Yeah.
So people feel, if you're at home feeling bad, thinking we're in a bad place, don't worry, the public are awake. Trust me. So that when I walk down the street, I get stopped everywhere I go. And I don't just get stopped with people saying, all right, Tommy, how are you? I see the passion and desperation in the British public. They are desperate. They're scared. They're scared for their country. They're scared for their community. They're scared for their kids. Things are changing. Since October the 7th, you see, and people talk about Israel, and I talk about Israel. You see what they've done on October the 7th? Look how empowered they were. They're marching for our streets in their thousands across the West, taking over universities, calling for the destruction of the only Jewish state. They have become so confident and so bold. And this is part of a massive problem in the education system, the funding from Iran, the funding from Qatar, the funding from Saudi Arabia. They are teaching the next generation to hate their own country. And no one's stopping it. Yeah, no one's stopping it. So I think October 7th has been a massive wake-up call. And if they were in that empowered because they murdered and raped 1,400 Jews, what do you think they will do if they take out Israel? They're coming straight through. It's first comes Saturday, then comes Saturday. It's the first comes Saturday, then comes Sunday. That's an Islamic saying. In other words, the Jews are first next to the Christians. Hamas come out the day after that attack and made it very clear Europe's next.
So also the protesters that, or your supporters rather, that are going to come out and support you on Saturday, would I be right in saying a lot of them might use it as an excuse to exert violence?
No, you'd be wrong, totally wrong. So when people say, people have this presumption due to the image that's portrayed by the media.
Yeah.
You will see something so different if you come. Come with a camera. You're doing your little podcast. Come and do your own video. Yeah. Come and walk around it. I bet it'll get more views than anything because this is what people want to see. They want to see real. Because I know
you've called out for only peaceful protesters, supporters to come. But does that worry you, that narrative of someone just getting a little bit aggressive, a little bit like you say, you can light a fire, that those people might just go ahead and tarnish the good work that you believe you're doing?
It worries me, and I also understand it. So there's a lot of anger and frustration out there, and I don't blame we have a right to be angry. English men and women have a massive, British people, we have a right to be angry at what's happened to our country. They have taken away the future safety of our kids. Yeah, that's what they've done. They don't know who they're importing. Mass open border. We're paying for it all in hotels. Every hotel's full. What we're paying for men who you don't know nothing about, who are hostile to our nation, putting them up in hotels. There's been rapes by men in hotels across this country. Let me give you one story, yeah? So a migrant come into our country. He went to Bournemouth. He said he was 15. They put him in school. He was sexually harassing all the girls at school, yeah? He goes on 5 years later. He murders a Royal Marine. He stabs a Royal Marine in Bournemouth Town Centre, kills him, yeah? We then find out he wasn't 15 when he come here. He was 21. So you put a 21-year-old man in school with our daughters. We then find out he shot 2 people dead with an AK-47 in Serbia before coming here.
But also there'll be a lot of people say that these are isolated incidents and not all...
One instance enough. One instant. Now, the government's job is to make sure that they protect and the British public are safe. Migrant after so-called refugee have come into this country. They've committed murder, committed acts of terrorism. The Paris attacks, the Blackland, all these attacks were by refugees. Okay, your job first and foremost is not to worry about the people of Afghanistan or Iraq. We pay our taxes. Your job is to worry about Britain. British people. I care about British girls, yeah? I'm sorry, I'm not as bothered about Afghanistan and Iraq. I care about our country. And the safety of our country. And quite frankly, by ruining the safety of our country, you're not helping them anyway. You're not helping those countries anyway. I do believe in safety for people in times of war. But bringing in alien ideologies that do not integrate, look, Angela Merkel come out and said it. David Cameron said it. Every European leader has said multiculturalism has failed. If you ask me, that's a coward's way out of saying Islam's failed. Because no one can tell me the Sikhs, the Hindus or the Jews have failed to integrate into British society, because they have. Yeah, what's failed is Islam, and it will continue to fail because it's never. It's 1,400-year history. You just have to look at any of the cases over 1,400 years. Wherever Islam's gone, you can't change what it is. You can lie about it like you're doing. Keep telling us Islam means peace.
Lied about, the most lied about man in Britain. What do you think the public don't know about you?
What? No, look, and so certain things that are said about me, I'm not perfect. I've made lots of mistakes, like everyone. I've got a history. Yes, so have you. So like everyone has. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but the reasons I've done my activism and the reasons I stand for what I stand are righteous, and I'm never going to apologise for them.
So the show's called Getting There.
Getting There, yeah.
This is like up, down. It's like the wave of life. Where is there to you?
I've gone like this, down here, up here, and I'm currently up here.
Okay, but where are we heading? What?
Up there.
Yeah. But what's the end goal for all of this?
What's the goal? Where are we heading? I'm probably heading to jail, yeah? And see if they want to send me to jail, okay? It'll be the biggest mistake they make. They're going to galvanise our movement. They are going to put the judiciary on trial. So there's that much of me that's... this is what I said to my family. I've done this for 15 years. I've been in prisons. I've been battered. I've had all of this, yeah? It's took me to this place. We're at this place now. I'm at a crossroads, okay? I'm not backing down anyway, yeah? But I have to expose their corruption, yeah? And whatever comes from that comes from that. So if I end up doing 2 years in solitary confinement, I end up doing 2 years in solitary confinement. But by giving me that sentence, says more about them than it does about me. I'm going to come out, which I'll tell the judge. Listen to what I say to the judge. Have you watched the film? Yeah. Well, you're corrupt too.
Yeah.
And everyone outside this courtroom, you haven't got control of censorship anymore. Yeah. You've lost that when Elon Musk bought X.
Now, when do you think we lost free speech?
I don't think we've ever had free speech in this country. America does. I don't think we've ever, in fact, when big tech comes so powerful, and the debate centre wasn't in pubs or community centres or on the street, it become on social media, they took control straight away. Once they started censoring what people can say, you can't sit on YouTube and say certain things.
I got censored for crypto. I didn't talk about crypto at all.
You got censored for crypto? Yeah.
I've never spoke about crypto
because crypto challenges their money bubble.
No, it's because there was a mention about the vaccine.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah. But how insane is that? Why can't you have a free conversation?
It's crazy. So even more when we was having discussions going on there, like, I said, I'm half banned anyway, and someone said to me, "You're going to get so much hate."
Do you know what you need to do?
So I get hate anyway.
Yeah, do you know what you need to do? You need to go on to anyone with platforms. If someone's censoring things and controlling narratives, yeah, there's no freedom of speech there. Okay. Now X, which is, I'd put your videos on X. I'd also set up Rumble. I'd also set up BitChute. I'd also set up all the alternatives. I'd set up on all of them because they are the future. Trust me, they're the future. Because as YouTube continue to censor free discussions and legitimate discussions, you've got someone who's vaccinated. In fact, on Saturday, on the 27th, I'm giving the platform to Vaccine Injured. Because I think it's an atrocity. I think it's absolutely criminal what has been allowed to happen.
Yeah, and my friend James in the next room, we were having this discussion, by silencing people doesn't make it go away. If anything, it ends up growing more legs, people feel more oppressed. I think it's important to have conversations where people don't agree.
No, and do you know what? Do you know the best thing? Like we said it on June the 1st, the people I've brought together, we had an important meeting last week. We don't agree on everything. Yeah?
And that's okay.
It's good. You don't have to.
I'm sure you and your wife don't agree on everything.
Well, she better agree with me on everything. It's ex-wife for a reason.
Not everyone's meant to have. We were born to be different, and just because someone we don't, have the same beliefs as someone else.
And we used to be able to have these conversations.
Yeah.
You used to be able to have these conversations without wanting to kill each other or hating each other. It's like, okay, and I think this, you think that. Well, that's okay. Let's debate it. If anyone thinks I'm wrong, debate me. Don't silence me. Don't delete me. Debate me.
So how are you going to change the public's opinion of you?
That's changed already. I know that.
Because I actually think that maybe it's time to take the mask off. With people of the media have built up this narrative as Tommy Robinson, the football hooligan, the tattooed thug they write online and along other things. And underneath that sits Stephen, the business owner, the father. Is it time to start maybe going back to who you are and showing people who you are?
I think the public have seen who I am. And I think that the public, whether they like it or not, they like to say he's not a journalist. I'm a better journalist than any of them. Yeah. And people believe me. Yeah. And if I'm wrong, I corrected my wrongs. And if it doesn't go against my narrative, I still do it. Whereas the BBC and these journalists, they pretend they're neutral when they're not. There's always a slant and a narrative that they're pushing. Yeah. I don't pretend. I'll just say, look, this is the facts of what we've found. So there's a reason that, and like they're blacklisting me from all media. Yeah. So even GB News aren't allowed to mention my name. And that bothered me at first, but now I laugh. I think I'll make a little video on X, so long as Elon Musk isn't killed. I know they just tried to assassinate Donald Trump. They'll probably do it with Elon Musk. But so long as I can make a little video, and my video will be viewed by figures that they can only dream of. And there's a reason for that. The public are searching for this debate. I remember when I went on Piers Morgan on GMB, and it was the most watched episode of their show, Good Morning Britain, ever. Yeah? That's the reason for that. Because you've took the ability for the public to have this discussion. You've scared them into silence. People are financed. They've got good jobs. They're worried about losing their jobs. So they're worried. But then this debate has to be had. Where Britain's heading has to be had. Do we think it's acceptable to become minorities as Englishmen in our own country? No, it's not. It's not acceptable. Just the same way it wouldn't be acceptable for Japanese to be a minority in their own country. It's not acceptable. The reason this country is so successful is because it was built on a Christian culture, on a brilliant Christian culture. I know we've lost our faith lots of the time, but we have to recognise that it was the Christian culture and Christian belief that built this country and the foundations of it. It made it one of the best countries in the world. And the reason all these people want to come here for freedom and to enjoy freedom is because of that. And now they're coming in and they're changing the face of our country. It's changing beyond belief. And we have, again, if you look at the numbers, and I always look at numbers, I look at demographical change, we don't have long. We don't have long. We don't have long to stop this before it comes too late. And that's Europe as a whole.
So if you were in control, what would you do right now?
I'd empty every hotel of those fake refugees that we're paying for. They'd all be going back. I'd take us straight out of their European Court of Human Rights bullshit. Don't care. I care about British rights and the freedoms of British people. You're all going. We're not funding it anymore. I'd stop every Iranian penny coming into this country. It's a terrorist state. Same with Qatar. Qatar is a terrorist state. Qatar has spent nearly £1 billion funding radicalisation across Europe. They own ports in this country. They own everything. They own shopping centres. They own, did they own Wembley now? How are we allowing this money into our nation? They're buying their way through our country whilst radicalising people to hate us. I went in and done an interview for Al Jazeera TV. And as I went in, I went through like an airport style. Check in.
Yeah.
I went, you cheeky
Security.
bastards. You cheeky bastards. You sitting here whilst you're causing all the problem out there. Qatar have radicalised the French Muslim population. They've radicalised extremism. They're funding extremism. They give a home to Hamas. They give a base to the leaders of Hamas who are planning atrocities and rapes and murder and pillage. That's what they do. Qatar is a terrorist state. Saudi Arabia should be... I know Saudi Arabia is actually developing and modernising and their king's trying to change things with regards to Islam and the influence Islam has. Maybe it's heading in a good direction. Maybe we have to give it time. But I don't want to play... I keep saying that they're playing the lottery with our future, and we need to stop it. So there's so many things I'd do. I'd literally ban any of their money coming to our country. The Muslim Brotherhood wouldn't be a home here. You see the 40,000 terrorists who are on a terror watch list, I'd intern every one of them. Get them off our streets. We spend £9 billion a year following 3,000 of them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And after the Manchester Ariana Grande concert, I found one of those terrorists. I said, let's look where they are. He lived 3 doors up from the school. I went and done a video there. And the police come for me. I said, this man is a known terrorist. Yeah? And he's 3 doors up from our kids at school. He's not 3 doors up from the Home Secretary's kids, trust me. Yeah? He ain't getting near their children. If he wants to go on a frenzied attack, you ain't stopping him. And that's what's happened. So many of the people, all the people who do the terrorist attacks are all on watch lists. We know they are. We're just waiting for them to do it. Well, I won't carry on waiting. You've got dual nationality, see you later. You committed a crime, see you later. You're gone. So many, mass deportations are needed, and mass deportations need to become...
Is this one of the goals, perhaps, to go more into politics? Is that,
I see my position as journalism and awakening the public. I hope that I inspire or change the minds of people who will end up coming into politics. When I gave my Oxford Union speech, I remember going there, it's 2015, I was terrified again. And it was a long way from the streets of Luton to be talking to the future leaders of our country, because that's who's in that room, the future leaders of our country. And I'm not saying I'm the person that can change it all, or that I want to be the person that can change it all, but I hope that I can change the minds and let people understand. You see, if you're living a privileged life at university and you're from a very privileged upbringing, like at Oxford University, you need to understand how we're living.
So if you were going to vote, who would you have voted for?
I wouldn't. Well, so I directed people to vote for Reform to send a message to the establishment. Do I think that Reform have the interests of the working class? Do I think Nigel Farage does? I'll be honest, no, I don't. No, I don't. I think Nigel Farage wants to be part of the establishment. I want to see it brought down.
How do you think the world will change if Trump gets back in?
There'll be peace again.
Interesting.
There'll be peace
Last
again.
and final question. How do you want to be remembered?
How do I want to be remembered? By who?
Everyone. Because interestingly, talking about your legacy, you're part of a school curriculum, am I right?
Oh, so they're teaching in the schools that I'm negative and that. Do you know my daughter? So my daughter's school rang up. My daughter's 12. My daughter's school rang up and said, oh, just in case you hear words around the school, the year above are learning about you this week. I said, learning what? Learning what you're telling them. Well, let me come in and talk to them.
And what did they say to that?
I got a lawyer. I got a solicitor. And then I said, you're the head of year. Do you think it's wise, because you're going to be bullshitting them, that I'm a racist or something, or extremist, you're going to show a picture of Hitler and then a pretty picture of me? It's insane. You're indoctrinating the next generation to believe things. So I said, do you think that's a wise decision with my daughter in the school?
And their response
he
was?
He said, no, I don't. They didn't do it in my kids' school, but they've done it in all the other schools. My daughters have friends that were ringing up and we learned about your dad today. It's not right. And
So how do you want to be remembered?
I don't care how I'm remembered other than from my children and my family. So I want my kids to know that I stood up for what was right at a time when people didn't. I want them to know that I done it because I love them, and I want them to know. And as long as they understand that, I don't care about everyone else.
Okay. Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.